the time. Ask Mike. He knows how stressed out I've been getting here in the last couple of months. But oh, there's Tom. We're looking at the International Space Station.
Cool.
Oh, I like he put the track on. I didn't see that. The last version I was playing with, he didn't have the track.
Huh.
But I just...
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Tom.
What is this?
To me, I think it's absolutely amazing to think that we've got this 40-year-old computer that a lot of people still consider a toy, pulling live API data off the internet with the International Space Station location. That just blows my mind how far we've come.
Believe me, no one is more surprised than I am.
Pretty amazing. Well, I'm hoping that everybody's going to start getting in here pretty soon. I know Nira said he was going to join us, and I've got some friends from Poland that are supposed to be here, and hopefully from the UK are going to start showing up. I know it's hard with the time zone changes. You know, I get here as early as I really can. I guess I could do a little bit earlier, but then we've got to worry about the people over in Europe. And there's the founder, Harold's here, Mr. Stable Internet Connection himself. Who's muted? You muted, Harold.
Howard.
I'm Harold.
Harold.
Everybody calls me Harold. I have to, whenever I go someplace, I have to show them my name because I'm called Ronald and Harold and Harry and all kinds of names.
You.
So, hey, I prefer that. Hey, is this all new kids?
Yeah, there should be a lot more actually coming. I don't think they're all going to be here yet, but we should have quite a bit more. This has been blasted all over Facebook the last few weeks. It's actually being streamed on YouTube right now, so that people that can't join us right now will be able to come back and watch it if they want to relive this exciting experience. So.
Oh boy, yeah, exciting.
But wanted to try to expand it. So it seemed like it was shrinking there, and it was just, me and Tom and you and, maybe one or two other people. And it's like, well, we're either gonna get some fresh meat in here and talk about some other stuff, or it's just gonna be the Tom and Gavin show looking at FujiNet and all the cool stuff that FujiNet does. So.
Yeah, I actually got a question about FujiNet, Thomas.
See?
This will only take a second, though. It'll only take a second. Is he there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Stick your head in there, Tom.
Is FujiNet? Can the end device be embedded into a basic program?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. What do you mean by embedded?
I mean, when I start the program, it will start an end device.
Huh. Okay. Well, currently you have to load the end device via autorun sys. First of all, if you want to use it through CIO.
Okay, so either you can start out with an autosys and then execute it.
That's the first thing. Now,
okay.
Now the other thing too, if you really want to, you can indeed talk SIO directly in BASIC if you want to. So you can talk to the FujiNet device directly.
Okay.
The commands in CIO literally mirror those in SIO. So you basically, when you to talk over SIO, you fill in, you poke in the appropriate values into the DCB memory area, which is 0300, and then you have a little USR routine that calls SIOV. So it's a little string about 8 or 9 bytes. And if you want to do it that way, you can. And in point of fact, for other languages other than BASIC, that's how we literally do it. So the end device was really meant for 2 use cases. The first was scribbling something down in BASIC. And the other was to provide network functions to other applications that talk over SIO, things like Atari Writer, things like, Music Composer, and things where you can type in a device name and go do something.
Okay, well, that's going to work perfectly then, what I'm going to do, or I'm thinking about doing. I'm actually writing.
The end device itself takes up approximately 1.4K of memory.
Okay, that'd be beautiful.
So
I'm rewriting. I wrote Uno for in Microsoft, already Microsoft Basic, and also for the TI and just about every other computer.
oh, okay.
And I was thinking about would it be interesting if I could actually turn it into a networked game?
Yes. Yes. Easy.
Okay, cool. I will
Easy.
pursue that.
Well, you know, I did this as a demo, basically taking the one of the first games that was released for the Atari by third parties, the Roman Checkers, which is a bellow, and we took and turned that into a network playing game. And you can, that was
Okay,
about that took about 6 lines of additional code, maybe 5 or 6, something like that. Not even that, maybe.
okay, that'll work. Okay, we'll move on because I don't want to be talking completely about FujiNet today. So
Why not?
everybody, and
That's all that exists.
Yeah, that's all exists is FujiNet. I like your new thing though, tracking the ISS.
Yeah, that's Bill Kendrick. Bill has taken to this thing and is now making all sorts of wonderful, silly little programs like this. This is his latest one. He was also responsible for the astronaut picture of the day program as well.
I can't wait till we finally get one. When
When
Gavin starts selling them again.
Oh, yeah. There's a reason
Okay.
I'm trying. I told you I was really hesitant after 1.3's fiasco, but this is 30 of them that are 99.9% ready to go. They're ready for flash. And I was just telling the guys before we started, the flashing part is always the part that terrifies me because there's this little tiny chip right there that's called a USB controller, and it's a giant pain in the USB. For some reason, this thing has been shifting in the reflow oven just a tad, and we keep getting them smaller and smaller, so the precision has to be better and better. And fingers crossed, I've got about a 90% success rate on the build so far of the 1.5s. In fact, I've already shipped out a couple of them to people that I had promised early ones to, and thank God they're working. But
are you still using, Gavin? Are you still using that table to put to run the pick and place?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to move it to the ground. That's all there is to it. I mean, I hate putting that thing on the ground, but I need to find like a concrete pedestal to put that thing on. It's on a real sturdy gladiator table that normally you would think would hold it steady enough, but
no,
it's not. It's not. So, but I actually cheated. These normally I just get the blank PCB and I do all of the SMT assembly myself. These I gotta come clean. I had them 90% built. Where I get the PCBs, I had as many components as they had available put on these things to try to increase the build time. Good. Because I have a couple of friends in Europe that want large quantities of these. The Atari Users Group in Europe has ordered 50 of them.
Oh Lord.
And another reseller wants 25 of them. So, and I know I've got a lot of people on Facebook that are continually reminding me, aren't they ready yet? Aren't they ready yet? So I'm trying, you guys, I'm trying.
Well, I mean, and just so you know, okay. ABAC has about 500 members.
Yeah, he's the one who wants the initial 50. So
yeah.
I mean, the plus with him is he doesn't want the SIO connections on, but the drawback is I still have to make sure these work before I send them. So I'm trying to figure out a quick way of mounting a cable onto this so I can test to make sure it works, because I'm not sending these out unless they're fully tested. So, I don't like unhappy customers. And now that I'm used to selling Jurgen's good stuff, I'm absolutely not going to take the chances, because I got to keep up with his level of quality, and that's hard to do. So.
Well, you got my Ace 80 in the box. Mailed yet?
Yeah, the one you just ordered a couple of hours ago.
Yeah.
It'll be going out Monday morning, I promise.
Just let everybody know you've got a sale going.
But like I said, I wanted to make sure that everybody understood when I posted this up on Facebook, this is absolutely not a vintage computer sales pitch. That's not what this is about. I'm not here to try to sell stuff. The main purpose of this group is to see what's going on in the community. I mean, we've got some pretty well-known Atari people out here right now that are joining us, and it's just an idea of sharing the cool new things that everybody's working on, because I know there's some pretty exciting stuff that people are working on out there. It's also a great time for Q&A. Tom is always coming and joining us with the FujiNet. So any of you developers that are thinking of getting into FujiNet development, I encourage you to do so. And Tom is your #1 resource for help when it comes to how to write software for the FujiNet. But you can see on his screen, there's some pretty exciting things that are going on out here in the community. So, this is the inaugural meeting of the expanded group. We formed this about a year ago, I think, when COVID first hit, as a way for basically some Texas guys to get together that normally met in person. And they invited me, the California boy, to join. And I've invited people from around the world to join. And I do see we do have people from around the world. We've got a very famous German with us today, and a very famous gentleman from Warsaw, Poland with us today. And it's kind of exciting to see. Jason joined us, Jason Moore. I know some of you, I'm sure, have heard that name. And Jimmy's all over Facebook. So, he's one of my big fans. So it's really great to see it. Really no structure. It's kind of a free-for-all. Since this is the first one with a big group, I'm kind of leaving it wide open for whatever you guys want to talk about. I have to step out and take one of my daughters to her first job here in about an hour. So I'm going to, have to be away for a little bit, but you guys, we can continue going on as long as you want to go on today. I don't have a set schedule. The meeting is the pro version of Zoom, so we can have 500 people in here for, 48 hours solid, if that's what we want to do. We want to do a marathon meeting, but I said, there's no format, kind of a free for all, whatever you guys want to talk about. If somebody's got something new and exciting to share, by all means, chime in and let's talk about it. But does anybody have anything?
One good thing to start everybody is maybe y'all just tell us what systems y'all have. Is everybody on the 8? Who has 1200 XLs? Who has 800 XLs? Who has 800s, 400s? Anybody got anything unique? I got a 600 XL.
Thomas is looking for a new 1200 XL. So if anybody's got an extra 1200 XL that actually works, I know Thomas is in desperate need of one because he has a cursed one. So
it's gone through 2 different motherboards, actually, including one from Bob Woolley it's developed a new failure mode. So now I have a 130XE over here on the bench just so I can continue working.
I had one 1200. I had 2 1200 XLs. One of them I never could get to work, and the other one I gave to my mom, and she used it for many, many years to print out a newsletter for her. Something I don't remember what it was.
Is it possible that's a power issue?
At this point, it could be anything. There are a couple of failure modes that are happening. One of them is, like I said before, that RD5 is floating for whatever reason. It's intermittently floating, and it is wreaking havoc whenever something wants to use the cartridge area. Because on the XLOS, RD5 starts bouncing, and the system thinks that the cartridge is being plugged in and rapidly plugged in and pulled out, and it throws the system interlock and freezes. The other is now all of a sudden it's just taken to randomly completely crashing. I posted a video up on it, so something else has gone wrong with it. I just, at this point, I've had 4 different people take a look at this damn thing, and they've done various little tweaks and fixes. I'd like somebody with a logic analyzer to come up to throw some probes on it to see what's actually happening and what's going wrong. It would be nice, but
sounds like a bad trace, but it sounds like you've had probably researched that to heck already.
Yes, and the problem, if I, and the reason that I'm asking others to do it, honestly, is because I have cerebral palsy. I should be nowhere near a soldering iron. And so, if I had the dexterity, I would sit there for 2 days straight, literally testing every single trace on the board. So, yeah. I don't know.
I think, Tom, you are using the cartridge port much often, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So the first idea I have is to resolder the joints in the near of the cartridge port.
Yeah.
And from my personal experience, the most problems with the 1200 XL is the sockets.
Yes.
The
Really?
cheap sockets Atari did use 30 years ago, they're broken sometimes. I've repaired
The single
yesterday.
wiper. Absolutely.
I wish we would have known that 20 years ago.
Yeah. And
so I think that's would be the first idea.
Yes. Yep. I concur. I've already replaced more than a few of the main chips on the board. I mean, it's got. I even now have a small supply of the 60472 delay chips because that guy was suspect at one point. So yeah. Okay.
That's interesting.
I would offer my help bus, but I'm too much.
I can imagine
from the distance.
I understand.
Hi, Tom. Just thinking about your problem. Is your mains power supply stable? What you're powering the machine with?
Yes, I probed it with a multimeter. It's stable both by itself and under load. So I'm not sure what's, like I said.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's something very subtle, and what Jürgen suggested may very well be the issue, because there's some interesting things that happen, and heat seems to exacerbate it.
You know, that 1200 XL that I had so much trouble with, it was the basic that would just flake out.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be willing to bet it probably was a socket problem too.
Yep. I at this point I want to completely replace the cartridge port. I want to replace all the sockets. Just get the damn thing, because that 12, of all the machines, and this is the thing, of all the Atari 8-bit machines, the one that has always felt right to me has been the 1200 XL, with the original 800 being close second because of the damn keyboard.
Oh, I love that keyboard.
I can't stand the keyboards on any other model.
Hey, Tom, have you done any mods to that 1200?
It's got a U1MB and a UAV.
Are you able to do those mods yourself?
No, I had Marlon do them.
Because I was going to say, I have a 1200 here that is completely stock that I've really never used. I just had one to add it to my collection, and I'd be happy to swap it out, take your mods and put it in this one and send you mine, and then see if I can do something with yours. I mean, I'm not using it, so if that's something that you'd be, interested in doing, you can send me yours and I'll swap it out.
Okay, we'll talk. Thanks.
I don't know I have no idea if mine's going to have any problems. I know it boots up and it loads a cartridge because I tested the AC80 with it, but that's really all I've done with the 1200 XL. So
no, I have a nasty habit of absolutely using and abusing these machines all to hell. So.
Well, good. We all appreciate that. I mean, if it wasn't for you using and abusing them, we wouldn't have FujiNet. So please keep using and abusing them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Talking about weird things, I need to bring out at some point, in addition to the 1200 XL, I actually have one of Ben Hackendorn's XE laptops that he put together many, many years ago. I have number 2.
Let me see a picture of that.
Well, hold on. Let me see if I can actually get the damn thing.
Now at least we have Israel represented. I see another well-known face showed up tonight. I appreciate you being here. I know it's late in Israel, so thank you for staying up with us.
It's not so late. It's only 7 p.m. That's
that's the reason I put it at 11 a.m. our time, because I figured that Israel on into Europe would still be relatively decent time.
Yeah. I want I want to show you something. Grab it. So right here. So just to recap what Tom said, I think we don't have much experience in the field of a 1200 XL that is modded with the ultimate 1 megabyte, and maybe there are some vast issues, and I think the 1200 XL is considerably the most rarest, or not the most commercial wireless Atari computer there is. And many people that does have it try to keep it as original and not to do many mods to it. So you have the Ultimate 1 megabyte that kind of like increases a bit the bus speed and supposed to be more compatible with the 800 XL. If we could look or do kind of like a survey and say how many 1200 XL there are out there upgraded, there aren't much. And I think also the developers of the Ultimate and other mods have not tested it on the 1200. And also, to be honest, I'm not sure that I know much about the 1200 XLs. I think maybe there are some revisions and versions of the motherboard. Maybe there is just not one. I've seen some computer without the XL mark on it, just say 1200. And some of them say 1200 XLs. So maybe there are some revisions and versions that require more attentions to it. But I wanted to show you here, this is my, you ask what computers I have.
Yeah.
I think I could say that I have every one of those, both in PALs and NTNC. So 800s, 400s, XLs, XCs, 800
65
XCs.
XE.
Yeah, so this one is my most, I would say, robust one. See if I can open it. And you could see it's a 130XC that is upgraded with the Ultimate 1 megabyte, so I can get the most memory out of it. It also has the VBXE, the enhanced video card. It also has the Rapidus, so it can go up to 16 megahertz, and it can operate as the, there were several upgrades to put in 68, 116, 60, 68. No, I forgot. 65, 816, I think, or we'll see. To upgrade it to kind of like to be 6502 compatible, but works in a higher speed. So this one has the stereo upgrade, dual pokey, video upgrade, so you can go almost like to a mini Amiga resolution, 640 by 480 at higher colors, higher speed, so I can even run emulators. I can run a ZX Spectrum emulator on this computer, and can run ZX Spectrum games and software, and the Ultimate, so I can get all the memories, and everything is menu driven, OSD screens configurable, and I would say that all the upgrades you see here were developed for the 130XE. So it's not that I'm trying to take these upgrades and trying to put them on a different computer that they were not designed by the original developers. So that's why it's a very stable computer. It works good, fast, and that's one of the computers I have.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's definitely got a lot.
Those machines were the bread and butter of Eastern Europe. I mean, dear God, every single Eastern European Atari user, you had a 65XE, a 130XE, or an 800XE. So yeah, it makes perfect sense that all those mods are basically built for that machine. And honestly, I am truly amazed that even after all those mods are crammed inside the machine, that the system clock is still, a stable waveform at that point.
Yeah.
Like, holy crap. I was going to show.
There is no PAL version of the 1200 XL. There is a mod to make it PAL. So
yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is a genuine Ben Heckendorn XE laptop. It needs new batteries, but it is indeed completely portable. Has an SIO port and cartridge slot, everything. So put together lovingly with lots and lots of hot glue.
That is cool. You said it doesn't use batteries though. It plugs in.
It does. No, it has batteries and it plugs in.
Oh, cool.
It's a full laptop.
That's incredible.
In fact, the batteries are actually kind of hanging out the bottom now. A little bit.
What was the motherboard based on?
Atari XEGS.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Completely, it is hacked up like you would not believe. I am afraid to take this thing apart because
I think we can all imagine.
it's
Yeah, because the XCGS had that odd angled slot in it.
Yes. All of it, the XEGS motherboard is completely cut up and it was shoved into this case. And it's also got an original My IDE in it too.
Simon ones, yeah.
Yep. Yep.
You know, but if I would build one today, I would use the 1080 XCL as a board to put inside.
Yeah.
It'd be a lot smaller. I wonder why he chose the XCGS. That seems kind of an odd board.
Well, this was 2000. Well, it was the smallest, most cost reduced board that you could think of. And this was 2000. This was 2005 when this was done.
And I think I saw in the video that he cut the board to some pieces to fit in.
Oh yeah, hacked it, just completely, just saw it. Yeah, it's unrecognizable.
Yeah. A better man than me, because I wouldn't have done something like that.
Does it still have an external keyboard port?
No, it's been pulled off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it got pulled off. And at my request, he put on an SIO connector and a cartridge slot.
Oh, they didn't have a cartridge slot before, huh?
No, the first ones didn't have either of those.
Oh, that is amazing.
Yeah. Anyway,
is there when you move the cartridge port, do you need any extra hardware? No.
Nope. Just I had it in my case. I asked him to put the cartridge slot external, so I have just a little dongle that plugs into the back so I can plug in a cartridge.
Yeah, I thought about putting a motherboard in like a 1U rack mount or something like that, but the cartridge port would have to be moved to the front.
Take a serious look at the upcoming 576 NUC board.
Amazing.
Is there any chance that somebody will make new notebooks like this based on XL hardware? I'm suggesting today we have some projects like this here. I will show it camera. This is the XE mainboard made by Panos, the new one, and now we have this one. We have other projects, and I can imagine there's somebody with good skills and making plastics, cases, and so on.
Yes,
are able to make a complete new Atari XL based notebook with such a modern PCB. 20 years ago, such PCBs can't be paid, but today, less than 50 bucks, this is no problem. You can arrange the parts and the jacks and also on you like. So I think this could be a very great project for the whole community.
Yep. I would buy one in a heartbeat because I really
yes.
I actually need one.
Does the Mister also emulate the XE XL line?
Yes.
Yes.
I've heard some good things about how cycle accurate that is.
Yep.
Because that is pretty small too.
Yep.
Well,
and that's another thing too. If I can get, I would like to, because we've proven, at least another member of our FujiNet community has proven that the FujiNet software can be ported over onto other architectures other than the ESP32. APC did the port to the PC, so this can basically be proven as a point where we could take and potentially have some core space on a Mister to take and deal with the FujiNet potentially.
I have a Mister box right here. If you can see it.
Yep.
Oh.
Mimi.
Yeah.
Little thing. It's so cute.
Yeah. So it emulates the Atari and some other machines, and this one is the FPGA Atari computer with the cartridge port right here.
Yep.
So it has 4 joystick ports, and it has the SIO port. You can plug it to a real hardware, a cartridge board, and of course VGA and modern stuff you can put into it.
That board would definitely fit in a laptop.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. Like I said, I'm a laptop happy person, and if somebody did it, I would do it immediately. I would do it myself, but again, I should be nowhere near a soldering iron.
And neither should I. I burned my favorite shirt yesterday with a soldering iron. So, but that's what I get from holding the soldering iron in my mouth.
Oh, yeah. Now you guys always see that the stock photo that they always use for engineering firms with the 20-year-old lady, holding the soldering iron like that.
I'm not going to tell you how many times I've gripped this incorrectly as well. Mm-hmm. So I know what the smell of barbecued flesh is like.
Yum.
Smells wonderful.
I had a friend of mine.
After 40 years of using a soldering iron, I would learn to not touch the hot end, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm. I had a friend of mine like to put a pencil in his mouth when he was thinking, and he was doing some soldering, and well, he did that very thing.
Yeah. So far I have yet to hurt myself with one of these, parts. These just come mysteriously in these pretty little bags, and I don't burn myself when I'm making these. So Thank you, Jürgen. I have yet to burn myself on any of Jürgen's stuff. So.
Sorry.
But I'm all out again, Jürgen. So I could use some more of those SysCheck.
Yes. I think we have to talk about another way, because I don't have the capacity to produce these amounts.
I
will
understand.
think about it.
I understand. That's when I held up this at the beginning of the meeting. Here's a pile of 1.5 Fujinets, and this pile of 30 of them is basically 2.5 days worth of work full time.
So what? About a month before I need to order one. Maybe two.
What, a Fujinet?
Yeah.
4 to 6 week lead time.
I keep getting people bugging me. Let me do a pre-sale. Please put them on pre-sale. And
I'm no rush.
I hate pre-sales because then I really feel the pressure. It's like, I've got people's money. I don't like having people's money if I'm not able to send them the stuff right away.
Yeah.
So I'm always, when I first started making my S drives 3 or 4 years ago, I had to do pre-sales because I couldn't afford to go buy all the components that I needed to make the S drive. So I would try to get people to pay up front, and then I'd order the component, build it, and send it to them. But I really don't like that right now. I've learned that life tends to get really, really busy. And, I've got 6 weeks left of school until I finish my degree that I'm probably never going to use. And I've started a nonprofit now to help underprivileged children get into aviation. So between school and the nonprofit, I've already got a couple people that are nervous that I'm going to be out of this before too long. So, I promise that, as long as I can keep doing the Atari stuff, because that's my love. I've got my very first Atari 800 computer that's sitting over here on my workbench back in 1980 when I was a little kid. The thing still works. I was arrested twice by the FBI for the stuff I used to do on that thing as a teenager. So Atari and the community is my absolute, love. So I promise not to leave anybody out in the lurch. I've got this one Polish guy that just won't leave me the hell alone when it comes to these Fujinets. He's worried that I'm going to stop making them before he can get some. So I promise. But I get it, Jürgen. I understand. It takes a lot of time, and people don't realize how much time it takes to build this stuff.
The greatest problems I have today is not only the time I need to solder all the expansions and so on. Another problem, for example, when talking about the RAM expansion, I used SRAMs, so chips. They are also 30 years old. You can't get new one. And I get more and more problems with defects. So today I will test every single expansion for less than 3 hours. I have sometimes 4 machines here on my bench to test the ones. I need more time to test than to make it. So when you're talking about the price and the time I need, so it's okay. I do it for the community. It's a pleasure, but it takes a lot of time. And so, yes, I think, Gavin, we should find another agreement. Another thing I want to show in this round is this little guy here. I've bought it from eBay. It's top drive. I've put off the label so the marking is gone. It sounds very interesting because it's a speeder for the 1050 drive. But for my, I was very surprised when I installed it. It's the same like the German Turbo 1050, only patched with Polish language. And yes, so if you ever saw this on eBay or similar, and you have already a Turbo 1050, you don't need to buy it.
I think for 1050 upgrade, I think the Atari 1050 disk drive was the most upgraded drive for the Atari. Yeah. It had the Happy duplicator, I think a Super Archiver, yes, and some German free Speedy, Mini Speedy, some Polish upgrades. So it's the most upgraded one. And there is also the
US
Mega
doubler.
Speedy. They use doubler as well. There is the upgrade called Mega Speedy that actually has all upgrades inside, and you select from a menu. There is a rotary switch. It has the doubler, the archiver, a Happy duplicator, some Polish, German, even the British IS plate upgrade as well. So
here's 4 from one guy I know. I mean, you get the Turbo 1050, the Mini Super Speedy 1050, the Mini Speedy 1050, and the Bit Replicator 1050. I mean, so here's 4 upgrades for the 1050 just from one very creative German I know.
Yeah. And I think all of these upgrades were supposed to speed up your disk drive and reading, writing, and some able to duplicate protected software. I think if you guys were back in the day, we were all trying to duplicate or make copies of the protected disk or floppies that we put our hands on, just so we can have it in our collection and able to play them again. And I would say that the BitWriter, it was the most handy tool that could also duplicate the Electronic Arts floppies. They were the most difficult protection scheme that were able to be produced for the Atari. They had like large tracks with multiple of duplicated phantom fuzzy sectors, and I think the Happy and most of the other speeder could easily handle the most floppies with just bad sectors or things like that. But the BitWriter was supposed to be the most difficult the hardware that would copy the most difficult floppies that were able to produce. I think Electronic Arts made the most difficult protection scheme that I'm aware of.
The chip archiver was the good one, tuner.
Yeah, and the archiver was one with the same manufacturer of the BitWriter. The chip was the upgrade that was going to the 810 drive. And then the Super Archiver was going to the 1050, but the BitWriter was an upgrade that said that are supposed to copy bits and not just the bytes of the drive. Just copy bits of it. Basically, it would just ignore. It's kind of like today we are doing with the Kyroflux duplicate. We just copy the flux. But then it would just copy the entire bits regardless of how many tracks and sectors you have.
I had an EEPROM burner, a BitWriter, EEPROM burner.
Okay.
So was the BitWriter did a drive enhancement too?
I'm not sure.
Or was it just the EEPROM burner?
I think it was just an EEPROM burner.
Okay. I wish I still had that. I sold that. back when I decided to archive the Ace 80s.
But the bit writer is an add-on. Yeah, don't remember. You need the super archiver to have the bit writer run.
Yeah, but if you got the replica, it gets both inside, right?
Yes, my replica has both, but normally in the old days, you need to have the super archiver.
Yeah, it only works on the 1050. You had to buy the super archiver from Computer Software Services in New York, and then you need to add, if you want, the extra bit writer on top, and that way you could copy every floppy that there was on the for the Atari computer.
Well, I have an 800 XL 256K model I got from Jeffrey Worley. You guys probably know, some of you know him.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see Jeff on here today. He's a real hacker, a real hardware man. You probably know, some of you guys know him.
I haven't seen him on Facebook very much lately. He seems to kind of gone dark a little bit. So he was real active there for a while. Maybe he went back to work, unlike some of us.
Yeah, he's pretty pretty busy. He sells high-end furniture for these rich people, I guess. So over in Jersey or New York or someplace, I forget.
Because he was the one, he was taking all these pretty pictures of his Fujinet and ended up dropping one off of a multiple story hotel room balcony or something. And he sent it back to me. He sent it back to me and I replaced it with a new one because he bought it from me. So I still have it. It's still right here. I put it in one of my pretty orange cases, but it still works. It fell off a building. The SD card connector kind of fell off and he wasn't really successful in getting that back on, but
yeah, I think I saw that picture.
Yeah. What else is going on? Jason, you got anything going on out there?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for including me. Yeah, I'm not doing any hardware projects right now. Mostly some people have been pushing me to do another book. I've been thinking about that. Thinking about maybe doing a programming book this summer. We'll see if I can find the time, but yeah, I'm not doing anything with hardware right now.
Well, you know, as much as Thomas keeps begging people to come and help with the software of the Fujinet, you know, a programming book might be kind of handy. Back in the day when I used to have my BBS in the early 80s, there was a lot of things I could do on my Atari. And unfortunately, I, like many of us, have joined the point and click movement. And I can barely turn this thing on and do anything other than test a Fujinet or an S drive at this point. And it just seems like it's hard to find those resources. And I think if we had some newer resources, maybe more people would help Thomas and develop some new cool applications out there. But you know, we're getting all this new hardware. We need some new minds looking at software, right, Thomas?
Yes, yes, without a doubt. And like I said, and this kind of this extends to anybody. I have a habit of giving chalk talks to anybody who asks for them. On any particular subject that I might know about, and this includes Fujinet. So if there's something you want to know or understand, hit me up and ask me, and I will sit down with you and work with you on it. That's a promise. So I mean, I really don't. I don't know how else. I really don't know how else to put it. And part of it stems from the fact that I kind of need some help. It's nice. We've got some people that are floating in from time to time doing certain things like porting Fujinet off onto other platforms and doing some much needed work now on the Atari side of things. But now it's like I need some help, like, for example, to extend the HTTP adapter, the HTTP protocol adapter, to properly support chunked data. If most of you may not be aware, but when you access a web page, 9 times out of 10 these days, especially, it won't come to you as a single piece anymore. Traditionally, you would do an HTTP request and you would get a content length. It would be this many bytes for the HTML that came back, and then you'd get the HTML, and then the connection would close. More and more sites these days are doing what they call chunked transfer. That is, they take and they don't specify how many bytes are coming, but rather they specify a delimiter and say and start sending the data over in chunks or in pieces with, you know, separated by these delimiters. And then finally an empty delimiter indicating that the transmission has finished. The underlying HTTP client supports it, but I need some help to take and fix the adapter that connects to the FujiNet that provides the protocol to actually support it. It needs some engineering work underneath. And I've been, unfortunately, life has gotten in my way as of late. Day job responsibilities have caused me to have to take and work 20-hour days for the last 2 months straight. So I haven't been able to put as much time on this as I had in the past. But like I said, for any part of the system that anybody's interested in, I will take and explain it top to bottom and try to get, because I want to get more people understanding how it works underneath.
Didn't you?
And you're looking for more help on the C development, right, Tom? That's more the firmware development.
On both? Oh yeah, well that's the thing. Both the Atari side and the firmware side are written in C, actually, most of it. The Atari side uses CC65, and the firmware side uses platform.io, and VS Code is used as the integrated development environment around that. And I just released a video, what was it, 2 weeks ago at this point, showing how to set up the firmware development environment under Linux. I need to do another one for Windows and another one for Mac, but get the general idea of how to set up. Now, the reason you would do that is essentially not just for firmware development, but if you were so impatient as to test a feature that I just made a video about that hasn't made it into the production build yet. So, you know.
I see our co-host has his hand up. He doesn't want to interrupt and be rude like us.
Oh, dude, whatever. Just say it. What? Yeah. Yes. What? Huh?
Thank you, Gavin. You invite me as a co-host. It's a big opportunity for me, of course. 20 years ago, I had a company that produced online games, and I have a source for this. And probably I could port it to the 8-bit computers and FujiNet. So right now I'm waiting for you, Gavin, for new FujiNets. In Europe we have the same problems with parts, electronic parts and USB. I suppose. This is I talked with our colleague in Poland that's working on building FujiNets. And right now he's waiting for parts also.
Yeah, luckily now, I have all of the parts. I've got a pretty substantial supply of parts. And for some reason, the FujiNet 1.0, the two other guys that are building these things had a hard time finding the USB controllers, and I had them coming out my ears. You know, we're in a global economy, and these parts are available if you want to look hard enough for them. You can find them anywhere. So I've got them. Yours will be the absolute next two that are tested and ready to go. In fact, I had a couple that I had ready to tested, and it looks like oh yeah, here they are. I've got PCB 4, 5, and 7, I believe, that are ready to go. I just need to put the ends on them. So when you're ready, you will get them. If you're going to be a FujiNet developer, then I definitely want to take priority in getting FujiNet developers the hardware they need in order to do it.
My support work on simple libraries that send and receiving packets, rather not packets but messages. So it could be messages over TCP/IP or UDP or even SMS messages, because the platform was prepared to also for telecommunication companies. So it could, the servers are written in Java, but the client could be ported to Atari OS.
Absolutely, huh?
Without any problem. So I have many casual games like chess, checkers, Scrabble. For example, 20 years ago, we had a license from Apple for Scrabble also. So a lot of those games.
Well, Thomas would be the one you want to connect with as far as the communication protocols with it. But I think that'd be awesome. I'd love to see more stuff out there for the FujiNet. You know, what we have so far is really cool, and it really shows the proof of concept, like the ISS tracker. You know, you can't really show much more proof of concept for how powerful the FujiNet is than that tracker sitting right there. So that's exciting.
Yeah. And that's all directly talking to an HTTP server and parsing JSON that comes back and making a meaningful display out of it.
Didn't you mention something about they weren't working on an Altera version of the FujiNet, or they were, or you was talking with them or something? I can't remember what you was talking about.
Well, that's the thing. It's it is
because that make it a lot easier to develop if you just pop it into Altera.
Of course. And the answer to that basically is A, we know it's possible because because Avery has built some amazing facilities to take and integrate an existing external devices into Altera. B, we've devised conceptually a way for this to be able to work in one of two ways, either through FujiNet PC, which is APC's port, or to create a UDP bridge that talks to a powered FujiNet that could be just sitting on a table, so to speak, and basically, just talking to the device over UDP and using it that way. Now,
back up. Are you saying you can actually use the FujiNet on the PC itself?
You can, yes, and that's the thing. There's nothing preventing that from happening. Absolutely nothing. Once the device is powered on and it's configured for a particular network, it can be sitting there powered all by itself, because it will take and connect to the network. Now, at that point, if we had a small UDP service talking, we could literally just take and start sending SIO packets over UDP directly to the FujiNet and have it send responses back. The nice thing about Altera's device server is that you can use it either in a blocking or non-blocking way, either way. So to get started, we take and build a simple device server that talks to it in a blocking way. It waits for, it sends the packet, waits for the response, that sort of thing, just enough so that we can prove the concept of work, and then we take and refactor it to be asynchronous or non-blocking. And this is, like I said, this is possible. It just hasn't been done yet. It's going to take, I'd love for somebody crazy enough to just sit down and just do it, because it's more than doable. This isn't something theoretical. This is something that can be done. And there are other crazy things too. I mean, another person right now has basically is experimenting with folding in an Atari 800 emulator directly on the ESP32 itself.
Okay,
to go alongside the FujiNet firmware.
And kind of like they're doing with FPGA. I mean, we're going to try to do an Atari emulation on the ESP32.
Yes, there's more than enough processing time to do it.
Really?
Yeah, not only that, but there's actually enough processing time. We could actually generate a video signal if we wanted to. The trick is finding, like I said, it would take a somebody's gonna experiment with it at some point. This would enable what I would call I want to run a BBS, but I don't want to stop playing Fort Apocalypse, use case.
I do it all on the FujiNet.
Yes.
And that's it, standalone FujiNet.
Yeah, just run the BBS on the FujiNet, and you've got the Atari doing whatever you want, whatever, you got the main Atari doing whatever.
Gosh, we'd have to have multiple FujiNets, one for our PC, one for our 800, one for our, you're going to be cranking out a lot of those FujiNets.
It's,
then we're moving to bigger components. That's all I got to say.
Well, Moz, if Moz had his way, we would all be using microscopes to assemble the stuff. So
who says I'm not? I'm over 45 years old. I don't have vision anymore. So
you weren't the first to complain about this. I mean, I remember.
He doesn't talk to me anymore. He doesn't like me anymore. So I'm sure
Zaxxon was actually the first to take and complain about this. So we understand your pain, but
it's an absolutely beautiful design, and we're packing a whole lot of punch on this little tiny board. Mm-hmm. But we definitely don't need to use this little tiny board. So unless we're putting it inside the computer, it's a fantastic design. I will never knock him for the design work. It's just It's a pain in the ass to build. So
understood. Yeah. No, but the thing to really understand here, and this is what I really want people to understand, is that what we've got here is a platform. If you treat the ESP32 as this gigantic I/O processor that you can send stuff to, then we have a lot of breathing room to do some really crazy shit.
You could emulate an Apple II on it, right, and use the Atari as a dumb.
Heaven forbid.
Everything. We're already doing CPM, so
that's what I was thinking of. You could emulate any computing platform.
Yes. I was very fortunate. I was able. The opportunity to do CPM was there, and it was something I could knock out in a weekend. So yeah.
In relation to the ESP32, have you seen the FreeDOS PC boot running Windows 3.0?
No, I haven't, but I will check it out. But I will.
Yes, that's that's the latest one. They've only got it running with black and white Hercules emulated graphics, but it's very impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not surprising. It's the ESP32 has a ton of muscle. I mean, I'm able to do SSL crypto on it without a problem.
Yeah, I could believe that. Yeah,
it's just like whatever. I mean, we were the first network adapter for the 8-bits that could actually do HTTPS and all of those protocols, which was something that things like the Dragon Cart, things like RRNet on the C64 or the Ethernet, they can never get there. So,
do you have? You say you probably have demonstrated the HTTP on the FujiNet, but I don't remember what it looks like.
Well, would you like me to do it now?
Yeah, just do a little quick one because I can't remember what it looks like.
Okay, so
hey Howard, this is also going to be on YouTube, so you can go back and watch it later. So if you forget this time, you can go back on YouTube and watch it again.
I'll mark it.
Let me change my view to. Okay, reset.
Quick question. Before you start up, can you just run a quick update? What is the difference between the different FujiNets, version 1, 1.3, 1.5? Do we have to upgrade the FujiNet?
Yes. Okay. I will explain. There is no fundamental functional difference between any of the versions. They all run the same firmware. and therefore have exactly the same feature set. The differences between the different versions have to do with our quest to try and make the FujiNet play nice with other Atari devices on the SIO bus, which has proven to be more difficult than would first appear. So basically, that's why there have been 5, 6 hardware revisions that have all centered around changes in passive components to take and improve the coupling to the bus. That's the difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I'm using this
1.3
FujiNet
is.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Nair.
And I'm
say
sorry. I will be, I mean, and that's the thing, Moz and I will forever be sorry for 1.3.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We don't talk about 1.3. 1.3 is the adopted, child killer.
It was.
We don't talk about that one.
And this is, and you guys have to understand something. The fundamental problem about trying to solve the problem that we're solving. 9 times out of 10, we'll take and come up with a hardware design that will work great on our machines. But then we get these things distributed out to all of you. And some of you crazy Eastern Europeans that have towers of like 15, 1050s with SIO bus splitters and little switching devices and things that, why doesn't it work with my setup? Damn it, you all suck. Okay, I'm sorry. We try.
So Tom, if I'm using my FujiNet as a standalone device, just to connect it to the Atari to load files and do networking and everything, I really don't care which version I have, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm. That's the point. Oh my God, yes. You get it.
If you're standalone version 1.0 is absolutely fine.
And that's the irony. My primary FujiNet device is still a 1.0. That's the funny part. Because I don't need anything else. It does everything. Why do I need anything else? Okay, so let's see here. I am improvising, so God knows what I will do here, or if any of this will actually work. But we'll try. So I'm going to start off with, we're going to go to Atari apps here, and I'm going to pick a DOS. Any DOS, it turns out, it really doesn't matter. If you take a look at any of the DOSes that are sitting here in the DOS folder on Atari apps, these are all disk operating systems that have the N handler loaded as an autorun.sys. So you can use any one of these. I will pick my DOS 4.5.
Okay, so if I wrote this game, I would just have the N handler already in the my DOS.
Yes.
Kick off the my DOS and then just attach to it through the SIO port. I mean, through SIO commands in the Okay, cool.
So
I can dig that.
So okay, so let's load my DOS, for example. And we're going to take and tap the option key for a moment here, and we're going to go in. Boy, I miss my Ultimate 1 MB with high-speed I/O. Okay. So at this point, the N handler is actually loaded. I think, let me make sure. You'll see some things on here. Ooh, I see. Oops. This one, I need to update the disk here because I need to rename this to autorun.sys. So let me see if I can do that. Excuse me. I'm just going to load it. Now the N handler is loaded. And At this point, you can use some of the other utilities that are on the disk, such as NCD, to take and do things like change the network prefix for N so that you don't have to type these long URLs out. And at this point, because I have N loaded and because I've done NCD, I can do an A to N. And you'll see that we have that we're pulling a directory off of a TNFS file server. Now, the thing is, it doesn't really matter which protocol you actually use, because I can turn right around, for example, and set, let's see. Oop, excuse me. Let's not do that. Oh, darn it. Okay, I'll skip ahead. Excuse me. Make a mental note. I need to update this disk image to the latest one. You can also do XIO calls to the network device.
We are not seeing your screen.
Are you not?
I'm not. I'm seeing colorful lines.
Yeah, I got some pretty color bars.
Oh, shit. Sorry. That's because I hit the reset probably. Let me exit full screen here on Zoom. Zoom wants me to stick here in full screen. Where are you? Exit full screen. Excuse me while I fix this. You have to go into OBS and dink. There we go. Deactivate, activate, boom.
Yeah, we're back.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. The RetroTink resynced and it confuses my capture device. I have to take and flop it. So
that was the RetroTink screen.
Yes. So I can set the device prefixes and whatnot. And for this one, I'll take and set it to a web server. Oop. And at this point, I'm now loading a file directly off of a web server.
Mm-hmm.
So this gives you, in essence, that's the first part of the transparency of the end device. Now we can actually start to do something kind of interesting here. We'll take and I'm going to reset the device prefix here, kill it off. And I'm now going to set up a little window here on the other side. Let's see, I have a terminal window here. Let me take and add it to my OBS list here. Okay, very good. Doesn't need to be this big. Okay, 1, 2, 3. So let's pull that kind of down here somewhere, I guess. I don't know, maybe a little smaller. Sure.
While you're doing this, I got a question. He said that the version 1 will work just fine if you're just doing this as the only device on your with no modification. Is that what basically he was saying a few minutes ago?
Yes.
Okay, so version 1's fine if it's just the normal. You just do normal stuff with it.
Yeah,
okay.
No, yeah, it's fine. Like I said, the feature set is exactly the same on all the devices. It really doesn't matter.
Okay, so unless we start getting something weird that we don't need to go to the 1.5 and on up.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Let's see if we can find an older version.
What I'm going to do here is I'm going to use I'm going to use a little tool called Netcat to open up a little listening socket, just as a simple little server here on the PC side. And we're going to listen for connections on port 6502 here. The -B is verbose, so I can see when it actually connects. So it's now listening over here on my primary development system. It's just the PC that's just sitting over here on the other side of the room. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a connection to that TCP socket. And since I want read and write, I use 12. The second auxiliary parameter is actually used to specify how we want to do any line ending translation. And since I'm talking on a Unix box, I want to translate line feeds. So there are different values here. 0 for no translation, 1 to translate carriage returns, 2 to translate line feeds, and 3 to translate both carriage returns and line feeds. So we'll say 2, and we're going to specify that this is a TCP socket on my development system at port 6502. Now you'll see that that's happened, and immediately we have a connection received over on the PC side of things. And all I have to do at this point to send something over is use the standard IO commands. And because I specified the line endings, it automatically takes and translates the line endings back and forth automatically. Now, conversely, because this is Netcat, it also opens an input connection on the PC side as well. So I can send something back over. And that is now sitting waiting to be received. And what actually happens if you actually saw the FujiNet at this point, after I hit the return, the yellow light popped up on the FujiNet right now. And that happened because an interrupt has occurred, indicating that there is data waiting. The CIO handler actually uses the proceed in the not used proceed line on the SIO line to trigger an interrupt to indicate to the Atari that something is waiting to be received. This is done so that we're not constantly bombarding the bus asking, do we have something? Do we have something? Do we have something? Whatever. So all we really have to do at this point is set aside a variable and then grab it. Or not. What happened to you? Are you going to call me a liar today? I guess so. Okay. I guess. Never mind. Let me see if I can try this from another install here. Apologies. I always do this from DOSXL just because. Let me try this again. Mm-hmm. Oh, 12.0. Oops. Close that off. Now that we've closed that connection, you can see it actually dropped the connection on the netcat side. Try that again. And you'll see right now that I've done this input number 1 A string here. It's blocking, waiting for input. And it's actually waiting on the interrupt line to hit so that it will take and do the actual transmission. And you'll see now that we've done that, bam, we get this back. And you see the result coming back from the PC. That's all you really have to do to do basic I/O. And for certain things like grabbing numerical data and whatnot, that's actually pretty simple too as well. We could do, for example, this. Say you have 4 player states, A, B, C, and D. Well, all you have to do is pull in 4 sets of numbers, comma delimited, and those numbers are now there, parsed and ready to go. And at the end of the day, that's the line input, that's the line oriented way to do it. And if you want it, and you also have get, you have get and you have put for character oriented data. That's all you need to do for just the CIO oriented stuff. And you can use the standard ways of basically doing a status and looking at peak 746 to figure out if you have any bytes waiting. And if you do, then you take and do the input and wait on them, that sort of thing. So it's actually very easy to take and do basic network communication. And this is just over, this is just over a TCP socket. If you wanted to, you can also do it over a UDP socket. The main advantage there is that you can basically change the destination of where UDP packets go at any time. So if you have more than, say, 2 players and you want to be able to take and transmit to, say, 16 or 32 different players, you just change the destination and pull the packets to different places. So that's, all of this is actually documented in the FujiNet wiki, all of the different commands that you can do and the parameters that they take, etc.
So Tom, this is a demonstration of one-to-one, peer-to-peer. How would you do a multiplayer game, one-to-many?
Well,
many to one?
One-to-many, much the same thing. You either handle that at a server. That's not a problem. Or you can do UDP, for example, and just change the destination address. The UDP protocol adapter will allow you to change the destination address of any packet at any time. So if you wanted to do it, if you wanted to do pure peer-to-peer from Atari to Atari to, say, 16 or 32 different people, you do UDP. And the thing about the adapter is the CIO handler basically abstracts the network at large and turns it into an Atari communications channel. So from the Atari's point of view, no matter which protocol you use, they pretty much work exactly the same from the Atari's point of view.
So in this case, I probably would create the main computer that would have the cards, say, and then everybody else who attached to it would just UDP or into that main computer.
Yes.
Pretty simple, straightforward.
I mean, and just so that I can get the point across, I mean, I can take and let me see here. I could just as easily, right now we're using TCP. I can take and close this off, close the socket. Then I can turn right around and use a UDP connection. And for the sake of argument here, I'll use netcat again, but we will actually take and turn, hold, where is my terminal one? There we go. Now I'm going to bind to that address. We're going to open, this is now a stateless connection to this address with the destination address set to this to get to from the get-go. And much the same thing. And I can turn right around and change this. Let me get the correct, what is the, hold on a second. I gotta think 53 hex, which is, so 1 second, 83. I can change the destination. To another address. And then the UDP packets will go to there. And so on.
Thought to be fun.
Tom, can you say how much the delay is? Also, I'm thinking about a multi-user game whole the internet using different sites, maybe different countries. And have you ever experienced how long it takes for the communication between two Ataris using FutureNet, for example?
The longest thing that we've actually done, ironically, the longest connection that we've ever done was about 3,000 miles away, and that was from, sorry, not 2,200 miles away. That was from here in Texas to Portland, Oregon, where we literally took and bounced a ball from one screen to the other. And typical latency, we were looking at approximately 140 to 220 milliseconds.
Yeah. Yeah, but Jürgen, I think even with modern computer, and I think my kids always complain about lagging in Fortnite when you're playing with friends globally wide. So
yeah,
I think we will expect the network latency, not just because of country origin. It's going to be your network connection, your speed, your quality of connection, and everything like that. And whatever game that's going to be developed, it will have to be encountered or taking into consideration of some latency on the connectivity.
Yeah, that's why I'd want to start with something like Uno before we go doing an RPG.
Well, it's why, I mean, like just for example, if I take and let's see, I will.
By the way, I want to say 120 milliseconds is a very good value, I would say.
It will be more over, say, to Europe and whatnot, but for the types of games that we're wanting to do, I don't think latency is going to be that much of an issue. So
I mean, even an RPG on the Atari is not going to be short latency is not going to be trouble. It isn't like we're playing World of Warcraft here with 3D graphics and everything.
So
okay, Warcraft is a big challenge. I'm thinking of something like MiniMaze ported for FutureNet.
That's what I mean.
Well, that's the other interesting thing as well, because FujiNet does indeed have what we call MIDI-maze mode. We wrote specific support for MIDI-maze. It uses a special mode that's a stream-based mode, which could be generalized for other things. If we needed it for, say, arcade-based game type stuff, we could take and generalize that for that as well. But that option is also available because Moswald basically made that a reality one weekend, and we tested it and eventually got it to work pretty well. So let's see. Where is?
Even if you run an RPG, you'd be running all the graphics on the machine. All you'd be sending back and forth was who's where.
Yes.
Which isn't a lot of data anyhow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way World of Warcraft got away with it. I actually did a dial-up modem of World of Warcraft when it first started.
Yep.
Because that's all they were sending was where things were.
Now, for this game right here, we basically split this up so that you would basically get the other side's host name, and then we built a simple little turn-based algorithm that basically keeps everything in lockstep, which for turn-based games is really simple. This is a good example if you want to take a look at how to do a turn-based game entirely in BASIC. Fundamentally, there's only a handful of changes that are made, and this is, these were additions that were made here. And check to make sure if there's any network activity, then we take and grab the position data and then, move forward.
Okay, that will do it.
Yeah. So works well enough. And from let me see if I can actually make a couple of changes so that I can do this by netcat to take and demonstrate.
But I assume that Mac is not a connection to the internet, but SIO transmission or in Atari, between Atari and Fujinet, right? Because for example, in Warsaw, I have fiber optic connection, 500 megabytes, and so there is no issue, there is no problem with latency between countries or continents.
Yep.
So I sent to you the screenshot from my discussion with Guy that is author of 8-Bit Strike, and he told that for his experience, Dragon Card is better because he puts all data directly in memory and without fetching data via SIO.
Yeah.
So, do you have any solution for that to achieve better performance for multiplayer games?
Not at present, but this is something that we need to definitely look into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but if I would compare, I understand what he's saying, but he's basically complaining that the SIO speed is limited to 1500 bits per second, while the bus is much faster.
Yes.
But
here, because as I understand, Dragon Card puts data directly in memory of Atari. And
yes, it is much faster.
Needs fetching data from SIO. So this is the difference between fetching data from the bus or getting those data from window in the memory, right?
This is true, but I have the Dragon Card here. If you can see it, it's a nice device. I even tried to write some code for it, but it's very difficult because you have to program everything by yourself. You have to do the TCP IP on the 6502, and
correct.
To make a game, maybe you could make a specific game that will work on this device, but it wouldn't be universal protocol or easy to program from BASIC like Tom is demonstrating right now.
Yeah, because
like I said,
I think the best difference is that Dragon Card is a kind of solution, but Thomas provides us with product, and this is not only solution, but a lot of software, a lot of tutorials, a lot of information on the social media, etc. So this is the main advantage.
Yes, yeah. And the big thing that really needs to be, and I know I've said this before, and I'm practically a broken record on all of this. I remember when the Dragon Cart came out, and given the context of the state of all of the possibilities of what was possible at that time when the Dragon Cart came out, it made sense. But the criticisms I had back then about the Dragon Cart are still hold true today. Okay, great. If you're a hardware engineer, you see the problem in terms of, well, obviously the Atari needs an Ethernet connection to a connection to Ethernet. Okay, so the solution is to take an Ethernet controller meant for an 8-bit machine, and you put it on a cartridge and you put it on the bus. Okay, you're done. No, you're not done, because as it turns out, I have experience doing this, writing TCP stacks. TCP IP stacks are very difficult to write because of the maintenance and the overhead of the connection that you have to do, not just on a periodic basis, but I would say on a tenaciously persistent basis to keep everything running. And that will tax a 1 megahertz, 2 megahertz machine to its breaking point. Okay, you take you have the Dragon Cart, you have the TCP stack. Well, you're using 3/4 of your memory, 64K in the best of cases, to house a TCP stack. Now what? What? You have no memory left to make a meaningful piece of software. And so that's why even 20 years after the Dragon Cart's introduction, we still only technically have not much more than a Telnet client, a half-baked web browser, and a couple of games like 8-bit Slicks. Great.
I've talked with Oliver Schmidt, that is author of because we've talked about CC65 compiler, and I told him that his solution maybe is good, but if he's not present on the network and not provide any examples, there is no product, not a product, right?
Exactly.
I dealt with him. I dealt with him directly when I was working on Plato Term. He came to me and offered to take and bolt on support for IP65 onto Plato Term. Okay, great. So I worked with him. He lasted about 4 days, and at the end of those 4 days, he walked away. And when I asked him why he walked away, he said, well, your Plato Term actually needs flow control, needs TCP window resizing, which IP65 doesn't do. Well, is that ever going to happen? And he never answered.
I just want to add one more thing. Regardless of technology, we are talking about the technicality here, but let's assume that in some day in the future, we will have kind of like a FujiNet that plugs to the cartridge port or to the PBI port. If that case would be, that means the software that will need to be written for such device will be made by a very handful people that actually knows about the design and programming. What you are doing, Tom, is a product that you can take even an existing basic game or basic software and easily convert it and modify it to work over the network.
Correct.
That's something that we won't be able to do if we had some kind of a PBI or a cartridge-based device that was not designed to work. Because you remember, existing software today that was written for the past 30 years are designed to operate and communicate through the SIO. So I definitely see the advantage of an SIO device.
Yeah, I completely, and this was the goal from day one. In fact, I had a very clear use case. I was asked by Kay Savitz. He said, "Make me something where I could make a game for the 10-liner basic contest." Okay, done. That was my goal, and I think we've reached that goal. I think we've already reached that goal.
Yeah, because the aim is finally to provide not the best solution but working solution.
Yeah.
So this is the goal, right?
What it basically does is the Atari is a terminal hanging off the FujiNet.
Yes, and in a lot of ways, that's absolutely right. You know,
right.
Or you can think of it in terms of a mainframe that has an I/O processor, where the I/O processor is basically, you know, connecting this foreign bus up and abstracting it.
So you can pretty much do whatever you want in that vein, and just send the information to the Atari.
Exactly. So what I've basically done here. This getting back to the Othello example, you'll see right here that essentially I've got a back and forth protocol happening here where each particular participant takes and sends data back and forth. Oop. I forgot what the coordinates were supposed to be. They're actual screen positions. But you can see as I'm moving things around the screen here, it's updating here as I'm taking and moving them around the screen, and so on. But that's essentially how the code actually works. Is it's bouncing back and forth and maintaining and basically using the back and forth of the connection to make implementation of this game as simple as possible. And for card-based games and the like, that will be really easy. Turn-based games, I would say. It makes turn-based stuff really, really easy to implement. I mean, there's practically nothing here in terms of code. Mm-hmm. It's about a page. The whole game is about a page and a half printed page, which we also had on the FujiNet too, because I can just do this. Send it off to the printer to take and pick up via PDF.
Anything high-speed arcade games, I don't see where the latency would probably be a problem if you're playing against somebody in an arcade game, but an RPG, card games, things of that nature, it definitely could. But even the arcade games, that latency isn't very high, especially as slow basically as the Atari is. It might even be doable.
It's like I said, the main issue with dealing with arcade games is finding the opportunity to do input, and that's going to take some experimentation, particularly because the SIO routines in the operating system stop everything else while they handle the IO, and we would need to take and come up with a set of routines that could run, that could allow other things to run in the background. I know this is possible because I've seen the loaders for Ball Blazer and Rescue on Fractalus.
Right.
So this is doable. It's just it's research that needs to be done.
Oh, that'd be interesting to do Ball Blazer on a.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That would be very interesting to see.
I started to modify capture the flag, but I kept tripping over the CRC check in the code. And so somebody a bit more versed in patching these games basically needs to take a crack at modifying things like capture the flag and mule and whatnot to translate joystick movements into network transmission. I think for mule, it would be, you could really mask in mule, you could mask the transmission delays a lot and come up with a nice little, 4-player network mule. Might just
well, I couldn't help but eavesdrop on you guys when I was out on the road listening on YouTube. And, the latency thing to me on a 1 megahertz machine, really, we're worried about latency with a 1 megahertz machine. I can't imagine slow much down.
It's not as big of an issue as people think.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so either.
Gonna be.
The only problem with something like Mule is that you have to, if there is any latency, you're trying to grab those plots. You have to push a button.
Yes.
You'd have to register it and all that other stuff.
Yes.
So that might be a problem.
That might be, but somebody just needs to try and see what can be done.
Well, that'd be easy just to test. Just have 4 people push the button, see how quick the latency is.
Yes.
So that'd be an interesting thing that'd be easy to test.
Yep.
Since it's the ESP that's doing the heavy lifting on the TCP/IP stack, I really can't see latency being an issue on anything. I really can't. I just, your Xbox is going over the same digital connection that the Atari 800 would be, and there you may get some latency here and there on an Xbox in a big, huge multiplayer game, but it's not enough to make it unplayable. I can't even think of a game that the Atari would actually run that the latency would be an issue.
Good point.
Yeah. So,
because the latency on an Xbox, it does come into play, and so does most of the games. It does come in. It would be the same. It would be your network connection latency.
Yeah, but the amount of data that's
in any case,
the amount of data that an Xbox is transmitting when you're playing World of Warcraft or Call of Duty is substantially higher than you're going to find the data flying on any Atari game that I challenge anybody to develop one that I think that would be a problem. I really can't see it. You're limited by a 1 megahertz machine. You're not going to get something that's got that much data that's being transmitted. I mean, I'd like to see like an online Ultima, where you can get 5 or 6 players all playing Ultima. It's not necessarily a turn-based game. There is some movement and interaction there, but I can't see latency being an issue. And I heard you guys talking about the bus latency, and it would be quicker if we did it on a cart bus or another bus, the Atari. But I mean, that was the beauty of this FujiNet, is to be able to take software that's already out there and with slight modification, be able to get it to talk to people across the world.
Yes. And there are more than a few examples of different games. I mean, the Reversi that I just did right here, I did a Light Cycles example just to show that it could be done here too. And Anthony Beauchamp actually did do a version of 8-bit Slicks for the FujiNet, and you can see some of the issues that occur with trying to get arcade games to deal with FujiNet. But for turn-based games, this really isn't an issue. And Kay Savitz sat down one weekend and ported 3D Tic-Tac-Toe for 2 players from Adventure International.
I got a couple of questions coming up too, you guys. I got Jimmy's got his hand up, and Greg also has his hand up. So.
Go, dude. Start talking.
Yeah, my question isn't about what y'all are talking about now. That's why I raised my hand. It's to change the subject.
Go for it.
Okay. I've got a SysCheck 2, and it's got battery backup. And the manual for SysCheck doesn't describe anything about what the battery backup features might be. And so since Jürgen's on here, I was wondering if you can enlighten us.
Okay. Yes, I'm sorry I didn't extend the manual until today. It's on my roadmap, but sorry, no time yet. The battery backup function enables you to keep the data in the memory expansion if you use this check like a Rambo compatible memory expansion. There are two problems. Sometimes DOS or any other tools using these extended memory are only able to detect the presence of external memory by writing something into the memory. That's a problem when you have battery backup external. Sometimes it works, sometimes it works not. That's the reason because why I have add this little switch on the right side with a right enable disable. Yeah, the biggest feature I personally use it as a RAM disk only. So you have some DOSes like DOS XL or other DOSes and have some tools, some handy tools in the this check memory expansion held. And when I connect it to any system, I can boot DOS and have the handy, the most important tools directly to access. That's the reason because why I'm at this feature. Sorry, I'm not very experienced with talking English, only writing, sorry.
Thanks, Jürgen. So I just got the case for it yesterday.
Oh,
that's made by the robot
good.
factory. So
yeah, I just put mine. I just did the same. Yeah, I just put mine on last night. Mine was super tight to get it to fit, though. In fact, I was just emailing with him this morning that sounds like mine for some reason. You know, there's probably a tolerance or something with the placement of the components that might be a little tighter on mine. But it looks great. It works great, but super tight getting it together on mine. I was worried I was going to actually damage the board. I had to push so hard to get those screws to line up, but it seems to work. So
yeah, I got it in there, but I wanted to stuff that blue wire inside, and there's no path for it. And
there's a path for it. There's a path
for it to exit.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yes.
Inside the case, but I didn't want to cut it off. I've upgraded my 800 XL, so I don't need the blue wire, but I don't want to cut it off in case I need to plug it into somebody else's computer at some time.
Yeah, but I think it's a good idea. Maybe it's a good idea to desolder it.
Yeah.
I drilled a hole and cut a little notch and stuffed it inside. That's what I did. But I'll have to have a screwdriver to get to it again if I need it.
Yeah, Steve did a good job with the case. Steve is the master of building cases for devices. So, you know, I'm looking forward to actually being able to keep a SysCheck cartridge one of these days, that I can have an extra one and get one of those or the shells to put it in. But it looks pretty cool. Greg, did you have something?
Well, the only thing I was going to say, I know I'm well out of my league here. You guys are vastly more hardware oriented than I am. I've been fascinated by the whole FujiNet thing, and the thing that triggered my hand was you were talking about listening to the printer when it creates a PDF. I assume that PDF is residing somewhere like on the SD card on the FujiNet, and then you somehow have to, I don't know if you use another machine at your house to access the FujiNet to actually get it to the printer, or how that works. But the thought that comes to mind is it seems like there is an operating system and everything in place over there on FujiNet. How hard would it be to create some kind of a driver and connect that to a printer that's in your home? I mean, it'd be a one-time setup for everybody, but obviously getting the drivers would be kind of a pain in the butt to do. But so that when you do the list P : rather than creating a PDF, just have it go over to the laser printer that's on your local home network. Has anyone considered that, or is that hard?
Okay. Yes. Okay. All right. This gets into a rabbit hole here. So the reason we didn't do that is simply because it is 2021 and we still don't have a standardized way to talk to a given printer. It is a mess. And every single standard that has come forward to try and address this problem has been obliterated. Google Print, for example, just got retired at the end of last year. Google Cloud Print's no longer it's gone. Apple AirPrint is shrouded in proprietary bullshit from top to bottom. And if you try to make a driver for, say, Windows printer sharing, you have to deal with the fact there's no standardized rasterizing way to talk to a driver. You can't guarantee that if you send GDI to a Windows print driver that what comes out the other end will actually be rendered correctly. I speak from experience here. So we did the virtual PDF renderer as a compromise because it was pretty simple that somebody could be able to take and go to a web browser and click to send off to their printer. Because anything else basically would be, I would have to support at least a dozen different ways to take and connect to a real printer in someone's home over the network. And before somebody says, well, just use JetDirect, the number of people that actually utilize and turn on and go through the trouble of setting up a JetDirect port in their home is very few. Very few people actually know how to do this correctly or to do it at all. So, like I said, rather than try to deal with the insane headache of trying to support more than a dozen different networking protocols for printers, I decided to sidestep this and just render a PDF on the ESP32 and pick it up.
So access to that would be like if you have your iMac or your MacBook Pro or whatever, you simply go to whatever IP address is associated with
whatever
the
host name.
FujiNet, and then pull it up and then print it from there.
Yes.
Okay.
It works.
The FujiNet's basically acting as a server on your home network, right? That's kind of the basis of this whole thing.
Yep. The FujiNet has a fully functional web server that we're hanging things off of, and the print is one of them.
Okay.
And not only that, but we can also do MDNS. We can also do MDNS broadcasts as well. So we can advertise that there's a device here that you can talk to.
Maybe there is a possibility to send via email PDFs to some email address and make a queue for printer.
That could be possible as well. Yeah, all of this is possible. Now, I want to really stress here, as of right now, we are using about 33% of the available flash space that we have for code. We're using about a third of our flash space right now. That means we've got 2/3 of our flash space completely open for whatever anybody may come up with in the next whenever. And for the sake of understanding, that's we have approximately 8 megabytes worth of flash space currently set aside in our flash partition. We have 16 megabytes of flash on total on a FujiNet, and we have 8 megabytes worth of PSRAM, by the way. So we have a lot of breathing room. We maxed everything out at the beginning, precisely because we wanted people to take and add things.
Aaron, you got something for us?
Yeah, I just questioned because we were talking about syscheck, and I'm using my device mainly just to find bad RAMs. It's a very easy tool. You plug it in, it will just tell you which RAM is bad and needs to be replaced. and you don't have to desolder and put everything on socket. But I wanted to ask you guys, what are you using your syscheck for?
I don't have one yet.
I mean, OS switcher, memory expansion, because I don't like to modify my machines at all. I mean, I don't like to do anything to them if I don't have to. So it's all external, and you just plug it in. So yeah, I mean, if you have OSs you want to use for compatibility reasons or whatever, you can have multiple OSs on it, and it's all external. So yeah, I think it's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, even if you have a system and the memory is there's some bad memory, I know Jurgen will probably say it's not the permanent reason you should use it for this, but you can just run off the memory that's in the syscheck, and even if the system doesn't have memory working at all.
Yeah.
There's no fear of damage. It works, but some things like a cartridge can't be used. And so I told most time don't use it as a permanent state, because it's possible that something won't run perfectly.
So I'm using mine just to as troubleshooting tool, and I started also to write a code, because one of the missing things I'm using is ability to test also the joystick port and to do some video when you want to find a bad GTIA. So I wrote some codes on the free slot, memory slot, that I could switch and get some video and some peripheral check to check the joystick port and things like that. But I think I'm not using mine as extended memory, because I have the ultimate 1 megabyte in all my machine. That's why I'm not using the syscheck but it's a good idea to use it when I don't have an upgraded computer.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, see, I'm kind of like Eric. I hate messing with my original computers. My original Atari 800, I've done nothing to it, and that's the neat thing with that syscheck, is it's just a way to expand some memory without opening up the computer and permanently making changes to it. So, I mean, maybe that's an idea of something that could be developed, if there is some way of making a permanent just memory or ROM switcher externally like that, so people like Eric and I that really don't want to bastardize our original equipment can do so.
Yeah. Well, today with the modern Atari computer, you need extra memory, because there are software that uses more than 64K RAM, and you need high SIO, because you saw how slow thing works when you connected FujiNet, or that you need high-speed SIO. So these are the two things: extra memory and high-speed SIO.
I am going to use syscheck as diagnostic tool, and it was a funny situation, because a few months ago I thought that syscheck is only diagnostic tool, but we have some guy in Poland that started clone Jurgen's solution. I'm sorry, Jurgen, that it was he didn't ask about this before, but he did it, and I have heard about this from Jurek from Retronics, and I told him that you should ask you about this, because you have your copyrights about that. I've heard that you have some talk about that, and there is some deal, or you agree with that with him, and he's able to produce some extensions.
Yes, I saw it at Facebook and Allegro.pl. Yes, what can I do? I think syscheck is an open project from the beginning, because it it was made for the ABOC hardware contest. So I have to publish the schematics and also on. I found it not a nice thing because when he made a replica, but what shall I say? On the other side, he charges around 40 euros only for the ROM expansion. For 5 euros more, you get the full package from me. Okay, I've made a little agreement. I get one of his replicas from Amstrad CPC computer, because this is also a favorite of mine, 8-bit machines. And so I allow him to make as much he want, because I can't do anything. I'm a private person, and when he does it, he does it. So we know the community knows that Saxon always does a lot of copy stuff,
Yeah.
but it's okay for me. The whole thing, or the major goal in my project is not to make money. I only want to have my costs, some euros extra to buy pralines and flowers for the wife, so that she can accept my spending time. And but it's not a company here or anything like this, so
this
it's
is
okay.
This is my also way for Atari, but he did something like this, and maybe you can also do the small version of SysCheck without the software, because the solution is quite nice, I suppose, right?
Yes.
After this, when he provided the solution, I realized that SysCheck is also memory expansion. So he did a promotion of your solution also.
Yes. I have already thought about it, but I have another idea. I'm working on a new version of SysChecks, but I think it's not ready this year. Because a lot of people are not satisfied about the upright position of SysCheck when using XL computers. On the other side, the SysCheck XL only version is also nearly not sold. So I plan to make a new SysCheck device, even with new functions, more operating systems and a BIOS, so you can don't have to use dip switches. You can change the configuration like the Ultimate 1MB. And the next, or the biggest thing I want to make is to have a square PCB with one side PBI, one side Atari XE and ECI, and also the pass-through outputs. So you can connect it to a PBI and have an Atari XE ECI output or a PBI output. You can use what you want. So you have like an octopus, I would say, and yes, a complete new design with new features. So I can add an 24 I/O port. For example, I want to enable something like Nia has already told, a joystick test. So you have a simple cable from the SysCheck external to the joystick ports, and just SysCheck can check the functionality of the joystick ports or the SIO, for example. It's a little bit like the CPS SuperSalt external fixture from Atari, but more modern and with better tests.
Yes, I will order. so count me in. Your solution is much more complex and more advanced and full-fledged in comparison to Saxon's only memory expansion. But it was nice. Well done, but he did promotion for your solution as well.
You're gonna make more of these?
I've thought about, yes, but I don't know why Panos didn't make more. He have the complete solution, and maybe I can ask him to get the files and make some for the ABOK. This could be an idea, but I must say at this time I have so much open projects. Some people are waiting for my super color card with NTSC and PAL compatibility, and I told I will be ready this year, but okay, I have to work for my money. Sorry.
You guys know what this thing is?
Yes, we know.
That's the
This same thing.
Right. Right.
Yes.
That's a very neat gadget that can emulate cartridges, and you can. Basically use it as a debugger because it can freeze the memory, and you can look at the code on the Atari level. So every time I have to do kind of like.
I think the first freezer was 30 years ago.
Yes.
Yes.
And you can stick the syscheck on the back of it, and have this giant, yeah. So without
Cool.
modifying the machine at all. See, that's what I like about it.
Awesome.
Don't forget, Jürgen, you have some help here in the United States if you ever need any of it. So I've got this pick and place machine that's sitting here really quiet right now. So
I know. I think this is the only way because 90% of my items goes to the United States. So I think we have to make an agreement.
yeah, and my box is getting low. I mean, I ordered everything you had for a specific reason, even though, I didn't think I'd sell all of it, but I don't think there's one thing I ordered that I haven't sold at least one item of. So, and there's a lot of things that I'm all out of, like the syschecks. The syschecks were gone before I even got the box from you. The color CPU, I think I have one left. The SRAM charger for the Indigist, I didn't think I would really sell very many of these things, but they've actually sold. And memory upgrades are pretty much gone. So your stuff is very popular.
Gavin, I just got the mini super speedy you sent me too. See,
nice.
Just got it yesterday.
And I know Jason got something too. So
with the Skittles,
gotta have the Skittles.
Haven't installed it yet though.
You've made a real good name for yourself in the community, Jürgen, and your stuff is very, very high quality. And I for one really appreciate it. That's why I think I was more upset when I found out you were pirated than anybody else. I mean, I have a lot of respect. I know that I could duplicate any one of these devices that you've sent me. I can pull the ROMs off of it, and I can read the ROMs, and I could make my own devices that are copies of yours. But to me, you're the developer of this, and if I didn't have your blessing to do something like that, I just think it ruins the community. I want to have a name for myself that I provide high quality devices and I don't steal other people's work. Steve, I've sold tons of S drives thanks to Steve's cases. I've bought Steve 3D printers. I mean, I thank him by supplying him with the tools he needs to develop more cool things for the community. And I really think that that's important for our community, that if someone's spending their time and energy in developing something, that we need to reward them. Thomas, I am a member of his Patreon. I send him money. Moz, I've asked him countless times, let me send you some money. I've sold a lot of Fujinets. I've sold hundreds and hundreds of Fujinets, and I wouldn't have been able to without these guys' hard work. And I want to make sure that those people that are in the trenches and are developing the hardware and the software are getting rewarded for it. I mean, Near helped us with the Ace 80 cartridge. I send Near money for every Ace 80 cartridge that I sell. Mike and I had the agreement where, Mike owns the Ace 80 software and we worked out the agreement there, but it couldn't have been done without Near's help too. So I think it's really important that people like you are recognized for the hard work and the commitment to the community that you have made. And, me being a family man, I have a wife, I have children. I know that when I'm out here in the garage running this machine and building these devices. I'm taking time from my family. And I want to personally thank you, Jürgen, for the time you've taken from your family to develop these devices. And to me, honoring you by buying your equipment and not making knockoffs of your equipment is the best way that I can honor that. So for you, Jürgen, I very much appreciate everything you've done. So thanks.
And from my perspective here, it's from my perspective here, I've essentially, Moz and I have essentially given our exclusivity of FujiNet completely away. And the reason for that really is very simple. The only thing I want from this is for people to use these things. So my view is, okay, great. If you take the design that I have and you make it and you make them and you sell them, cool. That means more people get to use them. So that part is taken care of. If somebody takes the design and improves it, great. That's awesome. The only thing I would ask, and this would be just a passive ask, would be to give those changes back to the community for the benefit of the community. That's really it. So, I mean, I didn't know, we had made the decision ultimately to just open the damn thing up and to let multiple vendors take and make this thing before COVID ever happened. But now that COVID actually happened, it turned out to be a blessing, because now you've got multiple vendors on different sides of the globe that can make this thing for their respective local markets. And the availability is there. Done.
Yeah, but that was the way you guys set the model up from the get-go, and that's why, I appreciate that. It was completely open source from the get-go. My only concern is when something that isn't completely open source, gets pirated and somebody else is taking the credit for it. I want you to make new shit, Thomas. So I want to support you any way I can, because you've made some really cool stuff, and I think if you're supported by the community, you might make some more cool stuff. That we all benefit from. So that's the same thing about Jürgen. If I can help Jürgen to stimulate him to make some more cool stuff, then I'm all for that.
As long as people are using what I make, that spurs me on to make more cool stuff. That's really it.
Cool. Well, I'll get off the soapbox. Like I said, I really, I was really upset when I found out about what was going on with that device and our friend in Poland. And I'm glad that Jürgen and him have worked out whatever they've worked out together. But, I would like to see us communicate more as a group of developers and innovators, that if somebody's got a cool idea, like, Steve with his cases, he's made these really bitchin' S drive cases, and I took it and expanded on it, and they're available. I have my STL files available for download, anybody who wants to do it. But I think that's what's going to help this community grow, is if we can take things that somebody's made and then make it better and keep doing that over and over again, this community is going to continue to develop. And I love this community. I'm passionate about the Atari community. I'm passionate about the 8-bit community, and it absolutely blows my mind that we have such a huge community 40 years after this computer has basically been not even used. So I want to stimulate the Jürgens and the Thomases and the Oswalds and, the guys that are out there developing new cool stuff for us. So we've got always something new and cool to play with. So.
Yay. Thank you.
I have a little announcement that I'm working on a very, very small project. I shared this information with Gavin a few weeks ago, and I'm working on a very, very small board. I assume that you recognize Sophia 2 solution. So in the GTA replacement, or VDX, the video card for the Atari, and those solutions provides also RGB output. And I'm working on a small board that will be mounted instead of modulator, and it will be provides some kind of, just a moment, I will show that kind of small connection, very similar to S-video connection connector with 10 pins, and it will be used with those kind of cable. This is from Sega Saturn to Euroscard, and it will be very simple. And after mounted, it will be possible to connect SOFIA 2 or any other VB for RGB output and stereo via this connector. So this is my small project for next few weeks.
I always get excited with video upgrades because I know how bad the video quality is coming out of these things. You know, I've still got, this is my hookup here. You know, I'm using a CRT on my computer with completely stock video, and you know, when I started playing with the Ace 80 card, I really realized that how, you know, my stock video isn't really good. So anytime we get video upgrades, I get pretty excited. So I'm hoping that I can keep one of these color CPU cards and put it in my Atari 800 to see what it does for it. But you know, I'm also one of those purists that I like glass. You know, if you look at all the boxes behind me, these big black machines here, they all use glass. I don't use LCD on any of my stuff. I think that the vintage looks much nicer when it's in glass. So I'm excited to see what you come up with, Peter. If it can make my 130XE look prettier.
CRT monitors also supports Euroscard connectors or other RGB connectors, right? So this is a huge advantage that there is possible to buy such a cable to Sega Saturn, and is complete, right? So we can use it, and this is kind of standard. The solution will provide such thing that it will be not necessary to cut the housing of the Atari. For example, I am against of, I like to modern inside, but I don't want to cut the housing of old computer. So after removing the modulator, it will be possible to install in that place such a small board, and it will be provide RGB output, stereo output, S-video, composite mixer, and audio mixer. So if somebody will have, yeah, that's right.
It's going to fit into that spot?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Wow.
So it will be in this place, right?
Okay. And it's not going to disable the regular video out if I wanted to keep that. You're going to be able to use both.
Yeah, that's right. You should remove modulator, and in those hole from RF antenna output, you will have a kind of S-video output with 10 pins.
Oh, nice. That will be really nice. So what else are you guys working on? Oliver in Germany, what are you playing? I see you playing something, Oliver. What is it?
Well, you can hear it in the background. It's Bubble on Amstrad CPC. I got this machine today for very cheap, and it had some issues with the tape drive, and I fixed that, and it will go to a friend in Denmark.
Nice.
But now I have to test it.
Sounds like it's working
That's
good.
Great.
Yep. Atari needs a bubble port, by the way.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
Well, it looks like Jurgen said he had to go have dinner and he'd be right back. So, so I didn't mean to get on too big a soapbox there, but I was a pirate. I mean, I got arrested by the FBI at 16 years old for the crap I had on my bulletin board. So, I understand the whole software piracy thing, and people do it, and it's it is what it is. But I just got upset when I see anything that might deter somebody from developing more stuff. So I wish everybody was like Thomas and Moz, where it's like, hey, we're going to do all this, we don't want anything for it, and here it all is for everybody. But man, it takes a lot of time. The amount, I know that Thomas has put a ton of time into the software development, and I know that there's a great deal of people in the community that put a lot of time in it. And Steve, the cases that he's done, I mean, look at that case. That's just like totally amazing that he's been able to make that case for that SysCheck. Look at that good. So I'm really excited that our community is developing some cool new stuff. So I still want to see a multiplayer Ultima. I want to play Ultima online with people from all over the world. I would love to see that. So maybe Nir could hack something and we could get a multiplayer Ultima sometime on FujiNet. But
a few more informations. I've talked with John FJC, right? John Holiday, and he will join us next meeting. And also I've talked with Howard Warshaw, and he also be excited to join us next meeting. So.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be really great.
That was the idea. That's why I wanted to expand this a little bit more than what we had been doing. Because like I said, it seemed like lately it was just a FujiNet show, and FujiNet is pretty awesome, and there's always something new that Thomas can teach us. Oh, it's not there's nobody to say sorry for, but I know that there's more than just FujiNet out there. And, if we can kind of share what's going on, I think we can build some more excitement for the community, and maybe brainstorm some ideas of stuff that, what to do next. What's the next FujiNet? I don't know if there is a next FujiNet, but there's got to be some other innovation that one of us is thinking about that we could do with our Atari. So that's the reason for these, is to stimulate that.
Way to grow this community, this small right now, is to make more open projects and invite more guest speakers. So Howard. I have his book, even I think.
Yep, I finished it.
The promotion. I think many of you and but it would be nice to have him as a guest speaker also.
That book is great, by the way. I loved it. I thought it was great. Good read.
It is a great book. I mean, and if you guys can think of people that you'd like to, that we'd like to have join our meetings, please let me know. When you mentioned Howard, I was thinking about, my old boss at Sierra Online, Ken Williams. I know he's got a new book out that he's been promoting, and he'd probably be, interesting to hear talk. I was at Sierra Online back in the 80s and 90s and seeing all kinds of crazy stuff that went on there. But, if there's people that you think would be helpful to join our little meetings, I would love to hear about them. So you guys can either message me on Facebook or email me on my website or whatever. But I'd really like to see this continue growing. Even when COVID's over, I think it's important for us to get together on a monthly basis and not just do annual meetings on each side of the coast here and a couple in Poland. It'd be nice to have some more virtual ones where more of us can get together at one time.
At the beginning, I've seen Marcin. I'm sorry, just a moment. Marcin Sochacki. His alias is Montezuma, and he's a good connection with Robert Jagger from author of Montezuma's Revenge. So I think it will be possible to maybe invite him also. By the way, I got my new X111 from Marcin sold me a few weeks ago, so I have nice tape recorder right now.
So you sitting there playing chess by yourself, Thomas, or are you letting the computer do it all?
Well, I did a game and played for a few rounds, and when I saw that I was about to get completely cleaned off, I resigned. So it's just yeah. It's what happens when you play chess, like just kind of like half in, half out. Oops. The guys, that's the thing. So this is the chestnut. This is the chestnut client. So this is against other players on FICS. So you can get on there and play against other players, and the guys that play on FICS are brutal, just so you know. So, but yeah. But yeah. So this was actually the first game to come out on FujiNet, was this chess client. And it came from the same guy who wrote the weather client, Bochano.
I forgot about him, and I didn't send him invitation, but next time I will.
Yeah, I'll get in touch with him as well. He seems to have been busy as of late, but yeah, he did some absolutely wonderful work. And that's the thing I really like, is that, yeah, we've had situations where we've had people come in, do their thing, and then they leave. That's cool. They made their contribution. I mean, Montezuma, who was on, I don't know if he's still on the call here now, but it's because of Montezuma that we have Bluetooth support. Because he literally came in and went, okay, I'm going to write this thing. He came in, he wrote it, and then he left. And, you know, and Bochano came in, wrote a couple of excellent pieces of software, and then added the app key support, so we could have, you know, application specific preferences stored on the FujiNet for each application. So, and that's really kind of the point here. If you have something that you want, and you can and you want to take and put in some elbow grease, I will bend over backwards to try and help you make it happen.
Yeah, but Bochano wrote also libraries to Pascal for Atari.
Yes, he wrote them. He wrote the Mad Pascal libraries that he uses for all of his applications as well. And mind you, that was, you know, he did that over the course of a week.
Getting back to, if we talk about latency once again, I think there was a discussion that it's not possible to see any problems with latency. I think the bottlenecks are, for example, routines, because if you write routines in assembler, it will be much faster on such a slow processor.
Yeah.
And writing to SIO, so it will be next step.
Mm-hmm.
And also libraries inside FujiNet.
Yep.
Because you don't have any influence for the global network, right? So this is there are three moments that you can optimize the code.
Yes, absolutely, and no argument there completely. There are plenty of opportunities to take and make this stuff better, and I'm adding tickets on GitHub all the time, and trying to take and let people know that these tickets are up there. I mean, I have a nasty habit of basically posting every major announcement to 15 different places at once every time something happens. So I try to let people know that these things are out there, and you know, eventually it does result in people coming in and helping out. And for each of those people that do that, thank you so much for the time that you put into it. I'm thankful, however much time you decide to do that, because every little bit helps. Genuinely.
Every time you push all of those fan pages, I push like. On every your post.
Yep.
And I also got some of these to try out too. The new SIO splitters being developed from our friends in Poland.
Mm-hmm.
Why is Poland such an amazing hotspot for Atari computers?
Because Trammell basically offloaded so much overstock there.
Not exactly. No, because for example, we have a little bit different story about 80s, and we have about in the half of 80s we have kind of shops. It calls Pavex, and it was shops with items from West Europe and United States, with items from outside of country, and there was a distribution of Atari computers in that shop. So everybody, if they want to buy a computer, they bought Atari, and if you want to, for example, buy Commodore or ZX Spectrum or other computers, you should bring them from outside of Poland. So the Atari was the most popular computer in our country.
Yep.
The only thing I gave him grief about is he makes this, which is a really nice replacement for the SIO, but the pins don't line up on his own board. So that was my only complaint. And this is still a prototype. He's not ready for prime time on these yet, but it's going to kind of be nice to have another SIO splitter and give Thomas some more things to worry about at night if this works with FujiNet or not.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, it was from Lotarek. It was from Lotarek or from which?
No, it's from.
Sure. Okay. Huh? Okay. I see. I've seen.
Yes, you can.
Because okay. Also, I know that guy.
Yeah, he's the one that makes the cartridge shells. I mean, that I've been selling a ton of, and that's what made the Ace 80 possible, is because of the shells.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Can't pronounce his name. It starts with a P.
I didn't remember his name, but his nickname is Shikor.
Yes.
Shikor.
Yeah.
Shikor. Right.
Uses Godzilla as his avatar. I think is appropriate given his personality.
Hey everyone, this is great. I need to run. I need to get some lunch. These Skittles from Gavin aren't really cutting it for my lunch, I don't think so. But I'll catch you all later. This is great. See you next time.
Okay.
See you next time.
Well, guys, unless somebody's got something else, I'm thinking we're running out of stuff to talk about. Other than,
I think we're good. So.
Well, hey Gavin. Just checking my computer here, and the date is still set to October 7th, 1985.
Oh, really?
There's a little history for you.
Wow.
As we sign off, I guess.
Well,
85,
Gavin,
2 years before I graduated high school.
oh, now I have to think. Hey, Gavin, I wanted to thank you for posting the invite on the Facebook there. And,
Absolutely.
I don't know if you remember, I sold you the 1030 modem or whatever.
Yeah, the 1030. Yeah, I just went and looked at it to make sure I still had it where I thought I had it. So yeah.
Well, I ended up with another one. I've been doing Atari stuff as we all are, like for 40 years, but took a large break there, with life and all.
Mm-hmm.
But been deep diving about the last year and a half, and during the pandemic, I just I run another computer business, but I just started buying stuff off eBay and to repair and do stuff with. I've lost track. I've got like 2 or 3 of each machine or something like that at this point.
Oh wow!
But we came up with an idea. I'm going to start doing some YouTube videos and setting up a channel and all.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's pretty cool because it gives me an excuse to spend the time on this stuff, because because we're all using PCs and Macs. Like right now, I'm using Zoom on a Mac, not the Atari.
Mm-hmm.
So got to have a reason to keep doing the Ataris and stuff. And I find it wild that like everybody here is pretty cool that you're doing these devices that still 40 years later we can get some new hardware on these things. And so watching a lot of YouTube, I think the Atari's kind of not really represented well on YouTube.
Yep. Commodore is represented over, and Atari is kind of left in the dark. Absolutely.
Right. Like the 8-bit guys is great, but I'm not that interested in the Commodore. So hopefully in the next,
I agree. And that's kind of what I had started my YouTube channel, was to start bringing more Atari. But I found that if there's one thing that takes more time to build than FujiNet, it's doing videos. The video series I did on building one of these FujiNets took a tremendous amount of time, and it's skanky and low quality, no fancy effects that these guys are doing. But I got to hand it to these people that have the YouTube channels like 8-Bit Guy and Adrian's Digital Basement, because those guys must spend a tremendous amount of time putting those videos together. So more power to you, Steve. If you can do that, I welcome it. I think the Atari community definitely needs more representation on YouTube.
Oh, cool. Thanks for confirming that. It's my wife, Mickey, she's offered to edit up the videos. She does a lot of data stuff and video stuff for work. So I'm like, if I can record them and, minimize, the stuff that needs to be edited, kind of get it right done, before post-production, and hopefully we can get some good ones up there and keep them coming, on a regular frequency.
Hey, Steve, glad you brought up the subject of that 1030 modem you gave to Gavin.
I didn't give it to Gavin.
No, I bought it. He was a snake on eBay. He overcharged me, and
Well, I wanted to ask you, Gavin, then, how do you plan on getting a landline off of a cell phone? Or you still got the old style landline?
Oh, for Gavin?
You can get landlines all day long. It's not a problem.
On a 1030 modem.
There's not a problem getting a landline anymore. You get voice over IP, Magic Jack. That's voice over IP.
Yeah, and
that
given
provides dial tone
protocols, 300 baud is about as good as you're going to get.
Well, the main reason that I wanted this was when Stephen and I were first toying with the idea of building a FujiNet to fit inside of this. Gut this thing. I have that acoustic modem too. I've got one of the 830s. I was going to gut this and put a FujiNet inside of it, and I thought that was kind of a neat idea. Steve wanted one so he could redo the case. Use the case to model another one, a 3D printed one, and both of us have gotten so busy. Steve started his own little shop now, which I fully encouraged him to do. I think that's great. But that's why I wanted this, was basically to rip it apart. And, I haven't done it. I've got my acoustic modem and I have my Hayes 1200 baud super stack that I ran my bulletin board off of. But, you can get the phone company will install a landline. If you want dial tone, they'll bring it out to your house.
So is that how everybody's doing getting on to BBS now, or accessing it?
FujiNet, Telnets.
Yeah, it's all TCP sockets now.
Most of the BBSs you're seeing out there are run on emulators, and it's just a TCP/IP connection via Telnet. Basically, it's a Telnet connection. In fact, there's a guy that runs an Atari BBS on AWS, Amazon Cloud.
Yeah, now I do have an Atari 800 sitting to my right here that has a FujiNet attached to it that's running Forum 26M and has for the last 4 months. Just pushing right along.
I just want to make sure that Gavin keeps bringing up Steve, who makes the cases. I am Steve, but I'm not the Steve that makes the cases. So
Steve Boswell.
From Steve. Yeah, Steve Boswell is our case and graphics guy. In fact, I just reached out to him. I'm starting a nonprofit, and I told him I need a logo. So if he wants to donate to my nonprofit at an early stage, the dude, he does amazing work. I mean, he's the one that did these cartridge labels. I gave him an idea. I said, I want, this will be on the same of every cartridge, whatever I sell. Near knows what I'm talking about. And, he took the original Ace 80 design and kind of brought it into this look. But Steve Boswell does amazing work. Robot Factory, I love the guy. I will support him any way I can to keep him as engaged. I've asked him to come to these, but he said weekends are his wife's time, so he He's not going to make special time for us for these. Maybe sometime we'll figure out a time where we can do it midweek, maybe evening, so it would be daytime over in our European friends. Maybe us United States people have to stay up late one night and visit with them and get some more people involved. But that's why I'm saying I love to support the people in the community that keep coming up with this cool shit for me to make and sell. So having more people involved in Atari and another good YouTube channel out there for Atari. There's one, Rick is his name, and it's 8-bit and more. He's got a good YouTube channel for Atari. He does a lot of programming tutorials.
He's been limited lately. I think he's only done a couple of videos.
He moved. I'm not sure if something happened in his personal life, but I know he's moved and was getting set back up again. I'm still waiting for a review of the Ace 80s that we sent him. He ripped me to shreds with one of my early S-Drive Maxes. In fact, I still send people to look at his S-Drive Max review because it's a great tutorial on how to use the drives. But he ripped my work to shreds. And when I first watched the video, I was so pissed off at him the first time I watched his video. And then I said, well, you know what? Everything he said is something that I could address and correct. And I ended up, thank you so much for, honestly critiquing this, not just, making it, oh, this thing's great because Gavin sent me a free one. And Gavin gave me coupons for my users to get discounts for, but I actually took every suggestion that he had and I implemented it and made a much better device. So that's the kind of YouTubers I'm looking for, is if I send you something and you can find something wrong with it that we could possibly improve, then by all means, let me know what it is I can improve, because that's, I want to make the best things possible. I'm real anal about my 3D printing. And I've actually had another guy who sells S drives, and he's probably, other than me, has probably sold the most S drives in the world. And one of my customers sent me one of his drives because they wanted me to upgrade it with the little daughter board I have. Yeah. And the print quality of the 3D case and the SIO connection was so bad. I ended up giving the guy a new case and everything, and I kept this guy's case as an example of what not to do. But I really strive. I'm not going to say who it was or who. I'm not going to bash him. I'm just going to say that I want the highest quality devices that I can possibly put out there to the community. So, if you have a YouTube channel, I encourage you to be very, very honest if you're going to do any kind of reviews on any of the stuff that's put out there by anybody. And hopefully they'll take it as constructive criticism and make it better.
Well, I definitely want to give constructive criticism. But one thing I've already decided is I've watched too much YouTube during this pandemic, and thank God I paid the money to get the commercials to go away. But yeah, but the one thing I can't stand are the YouTubers that just piss and moan about something. Like, I'm not on here to listen to your grievance about YouTube or supplier or somebody else. I want to learn something, and so I've already decided not to do. Again, constructive criticism, you're critiquing something or learning about something, but I'm not going to be doing any kind of pissing and moaning. If I get a product in the case, is bad for some, reason, I'm not going to harp all over it, And one thing I haven't done any 3D printing myself. And, but what I've come to learn is it's not that easy.
It can be a real pain.
Yeah. Which is keeping me from getting one, because I just don't want to spend all my time making, 5 bad prints or something.
Well, what's frustrating is you print something like I've got this controller adapter that I found online. This thing that allows you to put 2 of the Atari controllers together to play, like there's 2 games that need it.
I just saw that on your site, and I'm like, what is it for?
It's with the 7800s, you can put 2 of the controllers in here and play. God, it's Robotron, I think, is one of the games that you use 2 controllers for, and it's a neat design. But this is a 23-hour print, and there is absolutely nothing worse than you get to hour 22 and this breaks free, or something else happens for it. That's the frustrating part with 3D printing is getting it dialed in and making sure that if it's a long print, it prints everything. These things. The SIO connections for the FujiNet, that took a while to get dialed in. I'm pretty confident now on the quality that I get. I print 10 of these at a time, And I believe it's another one of those, it almost takes 24 hours to print them. I print them, you know, super high quality, so it's not printing real fast. And I have 2 Prusa 3D printers, which in my opinion are the best printers on the market. For small people like, you know, I'm not going to spend $5,000 on a 3D printer, but it's a challenge. And that was with Steve, with Steve Boswell, when some of the cases he designed. That's why I really helped him out get more 3D printers, because, you know, he was using a real low end printer, I think, to begin with, and he was having a hard time doing the design work, as he'd design it, then he'd print it, and the printer would screw something up and it wasn't real true to the print. So, you know, that's how I encouraged him, is like, here, you need a 3D printer, here's some money for a 3D printer. You know, continue doing what you're doing, kind of thing, and make us more cool stuff. But, you know, like I said, the YouTube idea, I love it. You know, it's going to take a lot of work. My hat's off to you. You know, if you've got your wife that can help you do the editing, because that's painstaking. But I'll tell you what, it sounds like it's easy when you set up a camera to be able to sit and have a complete dialogue of something. And man, oh man, oh man, the amount of times I had to hit stop and say, shit, I got to start over again.
Well, you can turn on a camera and record and post it on YouTube, but there's so many facets: the lighting, the angles, is everything in view, you know, just that's what we've spent a few weeks on. Is we took our exercise room, and don't tell anybody, but the studio we set up is on one side of the room, and as I record, I'll be staring at the treadmill. So
yeah, that's what the 8-bit guy was doing. I mean, until recently, he didn't have that beautiful studio he has in his backyard now. He was using a little tiny bedroom in a corner of it. So
and lighting and shadows and all, you know, we're gonna try. We don't want to make it, you know, 100% perfect, but make it so that it looks pleasant, you know. But like Adrian in his basement, he pulls that off. You know, other people doing things in basements, just, you know, something's not right, you know, but Adrian's got it down pretty good.
But I think that's all trial and error. You know, he's been around for a long time, and he's changed video equipment countless times, and lighting and audio stuff. And, you know, I think he's got a lot of time put in that basement. I think if we saw behind the scenes, it's not my garage filled with crap. So, and which is where I did my videos. And, you know, like I said, I don't have time for it. Would love to share more Atari stuff with the community, but, you know, the people that have done a good job are like Near. Near has taken some of these products. You know, I didn't know what the hell the SysCheck was when I first heard about the SysCheck, and Near's got a great video on it. You know, and 8-bit guy, I look forward to when I see occasionally an Atari video. It doesn't happen very often, but, you know, if we can get stuff like that for the Atari, that would be great. You know, and Jason Moore with, you know, his Atari Projects book and website, you know, I love that, because it's kind of making me remember what I used to use my Atari for, and how excited I used to get when I got Antic or Compute every month, and there would be a new program that I could spend 4 days typing in, and then 6 months trying to figure out why it didn't work. And, you know, getting involved and doing stuff like that was fun. And, you know, people ask me now, what do I use the Atari for? Right now, the only thing I use the Atari for is to make sure my FujiNets work and my S drives work before I ship them out. I have not got to play with this. The whole idea, the main reason why I made my very first S Drive Max 3 years ago was I wanted to back up my floppies. I found my box full of floppies, and I realized, you know, I better do something with these while they're still usable. I have yet to finish backing up those floppies. I don't even have a friggin' S Drive that I have for myself, because I sell them as soon as I build them. And it's the same thing with the FujiNet. Yeah, I've got a couple of them, but I don't have time. I would love to be able to get into it and do some of the stuff that Thomas has showed. I want to get my Crystal Palace BBS back online using Amos with the FujiNet. But finding the time to do it is impossible. You know, like I said, Mike's got the brunt of some of my stress here in the last couple of months with school and kids and COVID and work and this. And it's like, if there was 96 hours in a day, then it would be really, really nice. But I envy some of you guys that get to sit here and order the stuff and play with the stuff and actually do stuff with it. You know, like I said, I'm dying. My original 800 is sitting right over here. And you guys have no idea how bad I want to get Crystal Palace BBS running back on that thing again. For what? I have no idea. I mean, it was a pirate board back then, and, you know, I don't know what a pirate and freak board. I don't know what it would have on there now, but, you know, it's one of those things that there's just so much that I want to do and just no time to do it in. But, so I'm jealous of you guys.
Well, that's again the reason I'm enjoying working on getting the YouTube videos going, is it gives me a really good excuse to play with this stuff. So it's like a light bulb just went off in my head one day. I'm like, you know, if I can combine these and get to play with it some more, and it gave me a really good excuse to buy too much on eBay. So,
well, good. You're not just selling it; you're buying it now too. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, that was me this last summer, and I blame COVID and being cooped up in the house. But somebody put an ATR 8000 on eBay, and I had an ATR 8000 right before the FBI shut my last bulletin board down. I was gonna put a couple of 8-inch floppy drives on it, and thought that would be the solution for putting more pirated software on.
Yeah.
So somebody had one, and I paid a ridiculous amount of money for this ATR 8000.
Did you buy it like 3-4 weeks ago?
Oh no, this was
okay.
last year.
I saw one go a few weeks ago, and I had one as well back then.
Well, this one came with all the manuals, the schematics, the source code. You know, it came with everything, but it's in a tote now, and who knows if I'll ever use it again. But you know, eBay is a dangerous place. When eBay, and the other one that I spend a lot of money on is Shop Goodwill. Shop Goodwill is like eBay, but just for the Goodwill stuff. And I've got my Commodore 64, my Apple IIe, a bunch of Ataris. In fact, I've got an 800 XL and another 130 XE sitting over here that's still wrapped up. I bought probably 6 months ago from Shop Goodwill.
Yeah.
You know, it can get expensive, and again, I'm not even using the crap. So that's why I offered Thomas to swap the 1200 out.
I've been waiting like 2 or 3 weeks. I ordered or bought off eBay an XEP 80, the 80 column from somebody in Germany, and it's still in shipping like 2-3 weeks later. But
yeah, don't get me started on United States Postal Service from Germany. And it's not Germany, it's the United States Postal Service. Everything been getting held up in Frankfurt.
Oh yeah, well that's just it. It sat in Frankfurt, and I think it took 13 days, and I got the message yesterday. It's in New York now. So
yeah, the first package I got from Jurgen took what, 2.5, almost 3 months to get here, and then this last package I got was 2 weeks, I think, if that. So it's frustrating, and that's one of the reasons why I like to get Jurgen's stuff here, is so that everybody doesn't have to go through that. You know, they can order it from me, and you know, you'll get it in a couple of days if you're here in the States. But it was funny. The first thing I got from Jurgen, I think it was one of the color CPU cards. The day that we agreed to make the first deal, I get somebody from Germany that wants it, or Austria. That's right. It's like, really? So I emailed Jurgen, do you have one left that you could just send this guy? Because this is kind of crazy. I got to wait, 3 months to get your stuff from Germany. I'm going to send it right back to your neighbor. But the shipping from Eastern Europe is really, really bad for some reason.
Hey, Gavin?
Yes, sir.
Jimmy. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I got one of your cases, and hopefully you can't see it. Because I can see the virtual background. But the place where you put the switch and the LEDs, it's a challenge to get anything in that little hole. And I think I made the suggestion that either the faceplate comes off, or you open up this area in the back a little bit more so that I can fiddle around.
The faceplate does come off.
It does?
Is completely disattaches, yes.
Oh, it does. Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
You mount the LEDs into this faceplate from the back side, and then once it's all in, you fish the wire through that small hole.
So how does it come off? You just pop it over with a screwdriver then?
It should easily just pop off. Yeah. I mean, when I build them and finish the drives, these get glued on. But when I sell just the bare stuff, this is actually a couple of pieces.
Oh, because it came attached.
Yeah, probably just to hold it there so it doesn't slip around, but it should pop off. It's probably pretty firm. If you break it, I'll send you another one, but I don't think you'll break it.
It's a wonderful design, though. I mean, it looks awesome. I highly recommend that your prints.
Again, Steve Boswell was the brainchild. He did the original design, and then I wanted to make it a little bit fancier, so I'm the one that changed the faceplate to have it multicolor, and then I added the LED and the switch because that's the way mine looked. And then his, on the back side of it where the SIO connection goes, his was just a really big open slot, and I didn't like that, so I tightened it up and made the hole. But you said he's one of the ones that he comes up with these awesome things, and that case design that he did, the 810, the 1050, and I know he did another one for the old tape drive that I didn't mess with, but those are beautiful cases. So shout out to Steve again for his hard work on designing those things.
I wish I could get a rocker switch for it, but nothing that small.
I have looked and looked and looked to try to find a rocker switch that would match
Yeah.
the 810, and I couldn't find anything because that was the original goal, was to find the original little tiny rocker switch to put in there. But somebody may make one, but I can't find it.
I can't remember who came up with the idea, but to use a 2 or 3 color LED for the switch, so you know you're using running off the power of the computer or from a power supply, and also the data, so you could have in and out, and it would change different colors. And I thought that was an awesome idea. So
Yeah,
now I'm trying to find some LEDs that work for it.
The doing that for the data would be really cool. I mean, the board that I made and modified, I wanted to get rid of all the jumper wires that you used to have to do when you built the S drive, and the mod board that I made, there is no jumper wires. It uses all the headers that are built into the Arduino. I wanted to keep it clean, and then add the functionality of having an activity LED and the power LED, and the activity LED was one that I just kind of got lucky. I noticed when I was messing around with the Arduino, it's like, hey, this light on the Arduino board is flashing anytime there's activity. So I don't need to change the software. I just need to find what line that is that's got the activity flashing, and was able to find it. But the Atari 800, the original one, is my favorite computer. And I love the 810 drive look with that computer. And when Steve developed those cases, and they were close, it's like, this is really, really close. But I got to have a black drive door. It wasn't one color, the whole bezel on the drive door. So I was able to grab his plans and make the modifications for it. And he actually was mad at me at first when I first did it, because I wasn't going to release my STL files. It's like, screw you. I've spent all this time doing it. I'm not going to do it. And he kept reminding me what open source means. And at some point, it's like, you know what, you're right. I shouldn't do that. I figured just paying him the money I was paying him, because every month or two I would send him some money as a thank you for helping me make these cases. But I finally agreed. It's like, I have so much stuff to do. If people want to print their own, by all means, print your own.
Yeah.
I've got 3 Perusa printers, and when I'm in Fuji net mode, those things are going 24/7 printing cases and SIO connections. So, I'm a firm believer now of, hey, if we can put it out in the community and let the community enjoy it, then by all means. If we can't, I got a lot of grief when I first started doing the S drives. People go, why are you charging money to do that? It's like, well, I'm spending time to put the thing together. There's a lot of people out there that can make these things. That making an S drive is really, really easy. There's nothing to it.
Yeah.
But there's also people that don't want to touch a soldering iron or don't want to mess with it. They just want to buy something that's ready to plug in. And for those people, you're going to pay me for it. I've dropped my prices substantially. When I first started selling S drives, I was selling for over $100 a piece. I sourced out sources in China for the hardware that was much cheaper than anything in the United States. And then I started feeling guilty. It's like, well, I am charging quite a bit of money for these little things. And S drives are what bought these and the ones you can't see. But now I'm still making some money on it, because the time I spend out here is time I'm not devoting to my wife and to my children. So you're going to have to pay me for some of that time. But I've realized that, I'm going to charge a fair amount for the amount of work I put into it. These little guys, the prices are driven by Moswell. Moswell came up with the prices, and I'm going to abide by them. The 1.5 is substantially more complicated to put together. It's got substantially more parts on it than the 1.0, but we've got a set price, and the other guys that are selling them are all kind of sticking to that same price. So I figured, why not? I make a little bit of money on this, but the amount of time that goes into making these things is it's ridiculous. When I see surface mount parts, like when I get some things from Jurgen and I see surface mount parts, it's like, oh man, I would really like to just make surface mount stuff or bigger chips. Like this one, the 2 buffer chips on there are decent size, but there's a transistor up here that I hate that little thing. It is so flippin' small, and it's got 6 legs on it, and it's so easy for it to get kind of twisted and not hit. And you can see, in fact, there's some flux around the USB connection or the USB controller and that stupid thing, because it's not moving from the PNP. It's somehow, when I'm sliding it into the reflow oven, I must be knocking it too much, and it's shifting somehow in there. But Jurgen stuff I love. You do have some surface mount on there, but none of it is microscopic where I need to use a telescope in order to see the parts. But that's the kind of thing I mean about those cases is you don't see all of them that I throw away. If it's got a blemish on it, or if there's something like a little burn mark or something on it, I chuck it. I'm not going to send that garbage out because it's, you guys, if you're going to pay me for a product, I want it to look really nice. And in fact, I've got another 810 that just came off the printer. For some reason, all of a sudden, these little guys are selling again. People are buying S drives left and right. And I really don't understand it, because if you have a FujiNet, this is kind of a cool device, but you certainly don't need it anymore.
Well, I made mine, and I thought it was fun to kind of put it all together. In fact, I actually, when the board, that little header board came out, I was like, I got my little my little project board, and I put everything on there. And then you made that thing, and I was like, oh well, do I buy one, or I just chuck this one, or what do I do? So.
Well, that's the same reason I started selling the PCBs to the FujiNet is one, I mean, you can go get them. You can go send your Gerber files to any like OSH Park or one of the PCB developers, but often people just want one or two, and it's easier just to buy it this way. God help you if you really want to make this by hand. Like I said an hour and a half ago, I wouldn't do one of these by hand if you paid me for it.
Yeah.
But there's some people out there that enjoy doing it, and you don't necessarily want 5 of the boards from OSH Park, and don't want to spend $20 on it. So I figured, well, if you want to try it. Now I've had people, can you sell me all the components? And it's like, no. I buy components in the spools that are back there. When I buy capacitors, it's on a spool of 10,000. I'm not going to pluck 4 of them off and put it on a piece of tape and try to label that piece of tape and get it to people that want to build it. It's just, it wouldn't be time, it wouldn't be worth the time. But I am going to start having these on the site because people have been asking about these, the little SIO connections. And, this is the second most expensive part on the FujiNet. The first is the ESP, and the ESP is $5. Actually, I think this might be more expensive than that. And it's the pins. The pins that go in there, you got to have 13 on each side, and they're like 13 cents a piece. Wow. And it adds up pretty quick when you're making these little things. So I think people are going to be shocked if I do start selling these, because I'll probably make $1 or $2 profit if that on there, but they're not going to be cheap, and people are going to be blown away why that costs so much money. But
jeez.
Oh, Thomas has got the astronomy picture of the day. It looks like Mars.
This looks very cool.
I remember, being a kid and looking at kind of pixelated, dirty pictures like that would fly around on websites, on BBSs every once in a while, and thinking how far we've come. It seems like, from the pixelated ASCII art or the ASCII art, you'd get pinups and centerfolds that were done all in ASCII art back in 84 and 85. And, that brings back memories. Compute or Antic had a issue once that allowed you to build a little box for the Atari that you could get weather satellite images. If you had a ham radio, you could hook up this box to the audio output of the ham radio and dump it in the Atari. And I remember doing that. And I remember getting my first weather satellite image that looked like that.
I remember that too.
Buying the parts at Radio Shack here in the United States. It used to be the electronic supply base here in the States, but it's pretty cool.
You have,
but unless you guys have something else, I think we might as well wrap it up. And like I said, if you guys can think of other people that you'd like to get involved in this, by all means, I'll send out the link. I'll post the link up on Facebook again, probably in the next week or so. And we'll try to get as many people as we can to come share our passion and our love of these things.
So what are we doing these 4th Saturday, Gavin, or how's it working?
Yep. See, it came off. And I'm sorry about that, Michael. I'm not sure why I stuck that on there like that, because I used to put them in a little plastic bag, and maybe it was rattling too much or something, so I decided to put it on there. But I didn't even think about that people wouldn't just know that pulls off.
No, and I didn't want to pull. I thought maybe it was glued on. I'm like, I'm not pushing. And it was like, I just stuck a little tool in there and went, oh, it came off. And I'm sitting there like taking pictures. I'm like, how do I get that? I'm like, I could solder to a board. I mean,
that one's small. Look at the one, for the 1050 drive. It actually is even smaller. There's a little hole in there that the switch mounts on that one, and then the LEDs go on the side. But I'm sorry about that.
No big deal.
I always assume that people know everything I know, and that people have read my mind. But
yeah, well, that's why I always like to, I do QA, software QA, and I always throw my documents over to my other QA and go, read this and tell me if it makes sense, because it makes sense to me. But as soon as I give somebody else they're like, what do you mean by this? I'm like, oh yeah, my mind's already down that path, you know.
And it's on one of those lists of things to do. I mean, I wanted to make some kind of, short little documentation with why this is designed the way it's designed and how you're supposed to use it, and as well as that little daughter board I made. I've sold a bunch of those daughter boards, and there's no instructions for it. I assume that everybody can figure out, okay, we'll solder these two headers on your Arduino and slap the thing on.
Yeah.
And again, shout out to Steve Boswell, because Steve Boswell is the one that's the master of making these cool little diagrams that show you how to hook things up.
Well, maybe you should update the 3D print file for that part and just have it print on it, like pop to remove or something.
Text is hard. Little text is hard on these things, and that one you wouldn't see. And it's one of those things you learn to do. Did I have the stickers on the face of that one, Mike?
Yes, you did. Yep,
okay.
They're on there.
I had a buddy of mine at work that was able to create those for me, and unfortunately he passed away a week before Christmas between cancer and COVID. And I had given him the last of my stack of blank labels for him to print for me, and so when I ran out of these labels, I don't know what I'm going to do, but
well, they look beautiful. It really finishes it up. I mean, it's just wonderful work.
Yeah, he did a good job. And Mike, to answer your question, we've never really set like first Saturday or second Saturday or fourth Saturday or anything like that. Okay. I've got to go look at my schedule because, like I said, I want to schedule these on the weekends that I don't have my kids, so I don't have to worry about running them back and forth to their jobs and stuff like that. I want to be able to be devoted to this. So let me look, and I will, if you guys have dates that work better for you, especially you Eastern European guys, you're the ones that I'm really grateful for, because I know that it's taken time out of your Saturday night to come hang out with us. So, that means a lot to me. And if there's times and dates that work better for the majority of you guys, then by all means, let me know. You all know how to get a hold of me, and Near does too.
Maybe you could put a place on your website once you figure out what date it's going to be every month, or if it's not the same date every month, that we can all just go to and see it.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's absolutely a good idea. And like I said, I don't want people to think that this is a vintage computer thing or a vintage computer sales pitch. And, I'm not here to get people to come buy my stuff, because to be honest with you, I don't really need any more customers. I've got a lot that are repeat customers, and I really, really appreciate those guys. And, I appreciate the people that have given me the support. This nonprofit that I'm starting, I don't know what it's going to do to my amount of time that I have available for all this. And if it does really interfere with it, then there's really a good possibility that I'll pull the plug on this. We'll see. My hope is to be able to continue doing both at the same time. But like Jürgen said, this takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. And that's why I told my wife the other day, I said, I love selling Jürgen stuff, because I open up a big box and I put it in a bunch of little boxes. I don't make as much money, but it's a hell of a lot less work than putting together a FujiNet or building a cartridge. And, I've got another project I'm working on with Near right now that's going to be another cartridge. It's actually a game that was designed in Poland, and he's worked with the developer. Was it you, Peter, that's worked on this game that I'm going to be selling? Okay.
I'm from Poland, but guys, I'd like to forward greetings from Bociano, because I've just talked with him, and there is greetings for you from Bociano, and he wrote me that he will start again writing software for FujiNet after July. And also he's finishing right now his last game, and the premiere will be at 9th of July. So
nice.
This is news, and he also join us with the next meeting.
Is he going to write that game in both languages?
I suppose.
Because that was the thing with this game that Near sent me, is it was just in Polish, and I guess they were able to get it all converted over to English, and we're going to start that out here in cartridge.
I think when we start do more meetings, international meetings via Zoom, it will be more obvious to bring all those games to common language. I would like to say.
Well, I think that the Polish games are such high quality games. I really think that they would be strong sellers here in the United States if there was some English documentation and English on it so that we could understand all of the game. I think they would be very, very popular.
Yeah, and I know that we're the only people over here on this side of the world that has a completely different video standard from the rest of the freaking world. Of course, I'm not even talking about CCOM users, but just NTSC support, please.
I have 1200 Excel, so I can play on NTSC. Also, I think that ratio, screen ratio, is nicer on NTSC. It's more square than all machines.
And the color palette is correct.
That's a definition of correctness. I think the biggest problem for the developer is the different count of scan lines. You have more lines in PAL, and so you can code more directly to the picture, to the repeating of the picture. I know it from one German designer, Thomas. He made Demo's Quest, and he had a lot of trouble because to get this game so colorful, he had to take a lot of tricks with DLIs and other things. And when he transformed his game to NTSC, he took over 4 weeks for it. It was a hard work.
Finding cycles.
Yes. But I think it's a good way when we can continue this meeting format and can combine both worlds together. Then more and more developers are ready to hear these demands. And I think it's not impossible to create a good NTSC in modern games too.
Yep, I'm glad.
Also, there is another subject because, for example, for me, playing with hardware of Atari 8-bit computers is a very good introduction to IoT and Internet of Things and microcontrollers. Because we are using, for example, those microcontrollers in FujiNet, and also I try to check possibilities to connect Raspberry Pi also to Atari, and it's also laboratory work, but a lot of possibilities, right?
Absolutely.
And right now, I know that there are people that are more orthodox to Atari computers because, for example, I treat it like modern retro computing. That's why I'm expanding memory, correcting video circuit in my Atari, and etc. Right?
You guys mentioned the guy that did Demon's Quest. I was amazed by that intro screen, and so I asked him questions, and I think he said it was his first game. Yes. And he was he's like stumped. I don't know. I just did it. And I'm like, but I'm asking him all these questions, and it felt like he was like, I don't know, it was easy,
Well, sometimes when it's new to somebody and they're doing the first game or something, they don't know better what to be afraid of.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you talk yourself into like, oh, that's going to be too difficult because of all this years of knowledge. Somebody new, it's like, well, why not? Let's just do it,
I was just picking his brain because I want to do something that's colorful. And I'm like, and he was just like, just do it.
When I met Thomas the first time, he doesn't have an Atari 8-bit. He only have a normal standard Windows PC and Amiga 500. His game Demo's Quest was genuinely made on the Amiga computer, and he bought Atari 800 XL from me. And he doesn't know nothing about Atari 6502 CPU programming, coding, and so nothing. And we met sometimes in the regional ABUG meeting here in Hamburg. And then he had the idea, oh, okay, why not transform my game from the Amiga to the Atari 8-bit? The only thing he got is one book. It's the Atari Profi book. It's a German book, one of the best, I think, with complete description of all hardware and programming guides you need to know. And then he started. And sometimes it's a big problem because Thomas knows nothing about DOS and all these basics you normally have to know. He just produces code directly written in sectors to his disk and booted. No files, no DOS, all this stuff he doesn't know anything about. And when he want to make new things, I gave him 8GR files and he asked me, what shall I do with it? So it was a very interesting time.
That's amazing.
So 4 weeks or whatever, you'll post something up.
Yeah, like I said, I'll try to nail down a date here real quick, and I'll put it up on Facebook. I'll put it up on the Vintage Computer Facebook page. I'll tweet it out on Twitter, and then I'll let people know in the different groups, and meet up and do this again. And it sounds like Peter's going to work on a bunch of guest stars for us, so that's going to be nice. So anything that you guys can bring to it, the better. If we could get some of these developers like Thomas, Demon's Quest, I'd love to have him come and kind of show us what he's done and how he's done it, and just share with us what he's doing. And I think it's kind of cool to hear these newer developers making really cool stuff for the Atari. So.
And speaking of new development, it looks like Bill Kendrick's got his next project. If you look at the tweet on my window there.
Open Street Map. Oh Lord.
Bill, you have to understand something about Bill. Bill has taken ADHD and turned it into an asset. And so when he gets an idea in his head, things magically start appearing. So yeah, this may be the next thing.
It's going to be some pretty granular street maps. That's all I got to say. Going to look more like a D&D player field than street maps.
This will be interesting to see how he pulls this off. I'll try to help him, but yeah.
Tell him to use hexagonal tiles so that at least we can get
we'll turn it into a hex combat game like Tactics or something.
There you go.
Actually, the first thing when I saw the map that he did for ISS, the first thing I thought was, gee, that would be great for a game of Fujinet thermonuclear war.
War games, yep.
All right.
I'm glad he took my, I guess he heard the suggestions from other people too, but I told him, I said, dude, you got to make this thing auto update. I'm not going to sit here and press the damn space bar every 5 seconds when I want to see that space station
auto
move.
Updates now.
And I love the ground track, and I love that he puts some contrast in the text below where you can actually read what it's saying. So
yes,
it absolutely is gorgeous. Now I need 2 Atari so I can have the weather on one screen and my ISS tracker on the other screen.
Now John Halliday's GUI operating system has a reason to exist.
True.
Yes. It's a big problem because you need much more Ataris with FutureNet each to have all the nice gadgets on the bench running.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So a
multitasking operating system would be a very nice idea.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But I have also I met a lot with John, and he said one time the biggest problem for him or the challenge to not to go on with the development is because there's no software and no need. But I think this is a real good goal. Fujinet and the ability of such software items, small items like weather and all other stuff, is one of the biggest force to make him go on with the development.
Yep.
But he have also not the free time he wants.
I know. Oh, I know. All good though. It will get done sometime before 2050.
Well, we need a couple more pandemics to keep us locked up in the house, and then probably better chances all that stuff getting done. So, and that's what I equate this surge in Atari and all the 8-bits. It's like all of us being locked in our houses, getting into our attics, pulling out the boxes of old crap, and what can we do with it now? And S drives breathed a little bit of new life into them, and then the Fujinet just was like CPR on it and brought it, completely resuscitated this thing back to life. And unfortunately, we had to have a pandemic to kind of make this all happen. But now if we can keep it going, that's the thing. And once we all start returning back to work and having to go back to our normal drudgery lives, can we keep it going or not? But
for what it's worth, my employer has basically made the realization that its employees are far more productive when they're working at home. So I think that will be my case for the foreseeable future and forever.
Yeah, I think a lot of employers are seeing that.
Same here.
I wish my company would buy into that, but they just basically said that they would give us 1 day every 2 weeks to work from home. And we're just like, why? But my company also makes us wear ties and shirts and stuff. So they're really old school.
Yep. Well, I'm self-employed, so I've been working from home forever anyways. So
that's the way to do
having the wife home for the last 14 months. we redid one of the rooms into a nice office. So I have a nice office and she has her side of the room for her office. And it was within like the first week and a half of lockdown, we realized we could not work all day in the same room. She's she works for Experian, so she's on conference calls all day long. So we had to take the guest room and convert it to an office for her. And that's how we have survived.
Yeah, you can actually take a sex break too if you want.
TMI, but
you got to do what you got to do, man.
That all depends on how long you've been married, I guess. But
turn the video camera off.
Few and far between now.
Well, what's funny is we've actually only been married for like 51 weeks. We got married during the pandemic.
Well, congratulations.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we
I guess for that first anniversary celebration, you're actually going to leave the house then, right?
Well, damn right. We're trying to figure out like where we can go places. Where the hell should we go?
Well, we're coming down to see you guys here another 2 months. We're going to come down. I just got tickets to go back to the House of Mouse, the official California financial rape center of the world.
I find it funny, really, that my wife and I worked so much and so hard for so long that my wife and I had been married for 8 years before we took our first vacation.
Wow.
That was July 2019. And we got in under the wire. It's like, it looks like at this rate, we might not see another one for another 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Where'd you end up going?
We went to St. Kitts and Nevis.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the House of Mouse, or Mouse of House, Disney, we're more on the coast here, so we're like maybe 30-minute drive to Disney. But we would hear the fireworks pretty much every night, just way off in the distance, and not hearing fireworks every night at 9 p.m. Mm-hmm. We set our clock to it for the last 14 months has actually been pretty nice.
That's right, because you're in Costa Mesa, aren't you, Steve?
Yeah. Yep.
One of my early clients for my one side business was the city of Costa Mesa, so that's what kind of made it click. But yeah, I mean, this pandemic has been insane. I hated Zoom. I had to run all the Zoom meetings for our city council meetings and, all the different department meetings that had to take place. And I got so burnt out on Zoom. it wasn't even funny. But when the guy suggested this back on Atari Age a year ago, he was doing it with, I think it was Google, one of the Google solutions. Yeah, it wasn't Hangout. It was something else.
Oh,
and
Google Meet?
Yeah, I think it was Google Meet. And his internet connection was so bad that it was constantly dropping. It's like, dude, you know, I have access to a Zoom, a 500 user Zoom, so let's just do it on that. And, you know, now here we are today where, you know, he's kind of bowed out of this thing and we're still doing it on Zoom. But like I said, since we're so diverse, I may never get to meet Jürgen in person. I mean, I would love to because my family is from Germany and Austria. So I would love to come to Germany and Austria and meet Jürgen in person, but I may never get the chance to. So at least with this, we can share some of these things that's going on without having to travel clear across the globe to come to a local conference of some kind. You know, it's not going to take the place of them. You know, I look forward to the next time there's a West Coast Atari Computers users group meeting and I can actually go to it and see people in person again. But I think for our purposes of getting a huge geographically diverse group of people together to share their passion, I think this is ideal for all of us.
Yeah,
so I hope we can continue it.
Great.
Yeah, well, I've learned a lot today. There's so many hardware products out there and things going on. It's really cool just hearing everybody ask questions and showing things.
Whole box of it. Whole box of this, my German products, and that's just the German ones. We're not talking about the Polish ones because Poland has an unbelievable amount of hardware resources as well. I mean, it seems like Poland and Germany are the two epicenters for Atari hardware.
I'll trip over something. I'm looking up something, and I trip over. What's this cool thing? Why does it have to be in Poland? The shipping. Oh my God! You know. So
I'm working on it. I'm trying. The Retronics guy, he's teased me so many times about letting me distribute some of his stuff over here. And
Kevin, I have information for you. I've talked with him today, and he's preparing offer for you, and you will have it soon. So
awesome.
Very
It's like
this is very important because these things are very nice. You need it. You need it.
Yeah, I have it. I have it also.
Is that the Pokemox?
Yes. Yeah. It's the new one.
Okay, yeah.
I'm glad we're finally making silicon replacements.
Yeah. It has the new one has 20 I/O pins, so you can emulate all. This one can all SID, Yamaha, Quad Poke, Covox, all you want.
Jesus Christ!
Cool.
Yes.
Wow.
See, and that's the only way this is going to survive if we want to keep original hardware out there is with, I mean, these legacy Atari chips that are gone. You know, if we can't figure out some way of reproducing those things, then, you know, my favorite Atari 800 over here is going to be worthless before too long because it's only a matter of time before these components die. And I hate emulators. I'm sorry, but I don't want to use an emulator. Maybe sitting on my couch every once in a while. Okay, but I love the feel of this old keyboard and touching this old hardware.
You're right, but also, for example, for developers, it's easier to run software and do the development on the simulators. And this is the same like Atari. This is the same like you're writing code for iPhones, Androids, etc. Everyone use emulators. So this is, of course, there is a full pleasure to write the code on the Atari. And for example, that guy, 8-bit guy, right?
Yeah. 8-bit and more. Yeah.
8-bit and more. And he did awesome videos. And but the faster is, of course, when you write it in a C. CC65. I think this is the default compiler.
Yeah, you've got to develop on an emulator or something else for sure. But as me as an end user, I want to play it on my original equipment.
True.
I want that cartridge that plugs into that slot, and I can play it that way. But yeah, for developing, forget it.
I completely understand, and this is why a multi-pronged approach is so critical, One, making sure that we have silicon replacements for critical chips. This is finally happening, thank fuck Christ. But two, we also need the FPGA. We also need the FPGA simulations as well. And finally, we do need the emulators as well, because all the hardware is going to die. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And so, it's okay. Plus, I have to admit, I've done like Atari VCS software development using nothing more than a cross compiler and a logic analyzer, and that's not fun. The debuggers that are a part of Stella, that are a part of Altera, and etc., are some of the best debuggers I've ever seen in my life. And being able to literally stop. You don't understand, when you're developing code on a VCS and you're literally racing the beam, the fact that you can stop program execution mid-scan line and look at your registers and look at the entirety of memory dump to see what's going on is probably the only reason that some of us that are doing VCS software development today can actually do it.
Yeah, Stella is awesome. I played a little bit with Stella when I was trying to learn how to do some 2600 development. Stella is a fantastic tool.
But
no, like I said,
it's important to have the original hardware too. I must commit you to saying I want a real box, I want a real hardware, and I'm very happy that we have today the possibility for less money to create our own PCBs, our own chips, and also on. Yes, the LSI chips are dying, the original one, but I think there's no problem to make copies for the next 20, 30 years.
And
yeah, that's right. But also, for example, modern retro computing is also the way for expanding original hardware with some expansions that will help also development.
The Polish definition of some expansions. I look inside of some of your 130XEs and my jaw just hits the floor, and I'm wondering why the board isn't cracking in half. And
it looks like the Israelis have the same kind of condition. Nero is the one that opened up that box, and it looked like one big expansion board. So
there's a motherboard down there somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere. Yep.
What can I say? After you have stock Atari and you install Ultimate, Rapidus, GTA replacement as Sophia 2 or
VBXE.
and the original board is motherboard like in PC with expansions.
Yep. No, and I can understand it, because some of these games that are coming out of Poland require, a ton of memory in order to run them. But you can see why. I mean, look at how great the game looks. I mean, it looks like it's on an NES. It doesn't look like it's on an old Atari 8-bit computer. So, I guess at some point I'm going to have to suck it up and add these things to my computer.
You'll need to play Yump someday.
Every time developers rather like to have better machines to do more, even if the final target product is working on the stock machine.
Well, I've just ordered a bunch of new cartridges that will support up to a megabyte EEPROM on it, and part of it is for this new game that I'm getting from Poland that I'm going to be selling, I guess, here in the United States, according to what Nira said. It's 128K EEPROM just to run that game, and the cartridge that we've designed for it will support up to a megabyte EEPROM. So, it's some tremendous software which is going to require me to bump up the memory in my computers. I'm not going to be able to play the stuff. So,
for example, I've seen Atari Blast, and Atari Blast, it works when you load it from SIO to SD or S Drive Max. You should have 1 megabyte RAM memory. But if you put it on Ultimate card or on a physical cartridge, the requirements are stock Atari 64 kilobytes, because he used bank switching on the card, right? So it depends how you want to run this game, right? Run this software. And for example, for developers, of course, the first, if you, for example, look at Prince of Persia, Flipbo Quest, etc., the first versions require more memory. And after development, the target product is optimized for the stock or for example, for stock 64 or 128 kilobytes, right?
Yeah, you must keep referring to like XE machines, because my stock Atari 800 only has 48K. So, and that's was the maximum used to have back in the day. And that's the one I actually have another 48 or another 800 that I can modify, because I didn't, my original 800 I will not touch. You know, I need to fix a couple of things, but I'm not going to touch it. But, you know.
Yeah, for example, I have in my mind the next project, the very, very advanced project. I also shared this information with you a few weeks ago, because I am impressed by the RGB to HDMI solution. Have you seen that? This is a small board for Amiga computers, not only Amiga, but for example, for Amiga, for Spectrum, for Amstrad, a small board that that board is it was placed on the graphic chip, and in this board is placed Raspberry Pi, and Raspberry Pi with software, bare metal software, do the logic analyze. It works like logic analyzer that analyze signals on graphic chip and build very, very fast the memory for the GPU memory buffer, and through HDMI it brings a screen on the modern monitors and displays. So the Raspberry Pi is so fast that can build the picture without the lags from the graphic chip, from the signal on the. So we should imagine that probably there is a possibility, because for example, when we analyze last 30-40 years, the first expansions for the Atari was very, very trivial. I assume that you remember first freezers and first memory expansions, etc., and a lot of cutting of the housing of Atari with switches, etc. Right now we have times that we use FPGAs, right? And we are going to new times that, for example, you should imagine that, for example, we will make a very small piece of board that will be connected to cartridge and SCI or PBI port. And in that will be placed Raspberry Pi with 1 gigahertz processor that is so fast that could work as a logic analyzer with response. So in this situation, because, for example, our RGB to HDMI is only logic analyzer that puts that's fill memory buffer of GPU, right? But for example, we should imagine that, for example, we can do the logic analyzer with response, and it will be works as a software as a hardware solution, and we could emulate with this every expansion, because if you have very fast processor in such board, you can treat an expansion as a function of some inputs and some outputs, right? So this is possible to make very fast software as a hardware solution, and for example, ultimate card or any other cartridge or expansion like ultimate 1 megabyte, but external could be emulated via this kind of small board with Raspberry Pi. But this is also a little bit complicated because Raspberry Pi Zero has 26 general output pins, GPIOs, and for example, when you want to map PBI, it will be about 30 something like this signals. So it could be that it is possible to write software that will input all signals from the cartridge or PBI ports and do the response very fast and emulate hardware as a software.
Give me a reason to use all these little guys.
Yeah.
That's nice.
I've talked with John Halliday, and after I told him this idea, he answered that he will try to look another job then. Yeah, because every expansion could be delivered on the SD card or Wi-Fi.
Yeah, true. Yep.
But maybe this is a future of computing, that you will be able to, for example, fetch hardware emulated by software from 5G, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what changes with this extremely high-speed internet everywhere now that we're going to have. So, and the devices that are being built for it. So, yeah, it looks like we've lost almost everybody now. Now it's really just the diehards. Even Near had to, or Jurgen's gone, Near's gone. So.
Yeah, and I'm about to drop off too. See you guys.
Yeah, I've got to go do my paper. So.
Hey, guys. So Gavin, next month we will have another meeting.
Absolutely. Like I said, I will send out notice here in the next day or two on a weekend. You know which weekend? I'm probably 3 weeks from now. Okay. I want to do it opposite of, like I said, opposite where my kids are, and obviously my kids are here this weekend, so they won't be here next weekend, which means 3 weeks from now they won't be here. So I was thinking 3 weeks would probably give us enough time to get some people together for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Then let's shoot for that. What is 3 weeks from today?
12th.
The 12th of June.
Yep.
Okay.
And so I can speak with Howard Warshaw. I sent today also information to Retro Receipts and 8-bit and more guys, but I didn't have a response from them. But probably it was so late.
Yeah, I sent Rick an email this morning saying, I'm really sorry I didn't think about you before just now, but if you can join us. And that's the 8-bit and more guy, Rick. But I said, he's been like, I think his life got really complicated. So I think he's kind of tied up with a lot of things. But yeah, let's shoot for the 12th at the same time and see how many people we can get here. And I'll start posting some stuff on Facebook and Twitter, and get the message out.
There's a quite nice method to make email with calendar and put those all guys that are accessible via emails to the calendar and send them calendar information. Maybe they will click that. Okay, I will participate in the event. So for example, we in a Rotary we are doing something like this, and it works.
Okay. Well, I don't have everybody's email address, so that's why I've just been relying on social media to send it out. So,
but for example, those guys like Retro Receipts and 8-bit and more, they have emails, but I didn't. Rick, you said Rick?
Rick, yes.
Okay, I didn't his account on the Facebook, so that's why I wrote to him. And also, for example, I wrote to Oliver Schmidt, but he once he told me that he's not a social guy, and that's why he not put any information about Dragon Card on the Facebook. So I told him that if he will not put any information in documentation and do open project, it will be the end of his product.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's like Moswald. I would love to have Moswald join us one time, but I know he's not into the whole social thing, because Moswald is brilliant when it comes to hardware, and I'd love to have him come and share some of his stuff with us.
I'll try to get him to come, but he's a very quiet, private individual. I mean, that's putting it mildly. He's just kind of.
No, and I totally respect that. Like I said, I would love to, get him involved in this, just because of
absolutely.
Clearly, he's skilled. Has very good skills. I mean, he's done amazing work, and like I said, I know he's kind of mad at me, and I'm not mad at him at all. 1.3, it's a oops. It's a learning experience. None of this is production ready, in my opinion. It's all developing as we go. And if people are waiting I'm going to wait for that final bug-free, completely working version, good luck. I don't think you're ever going to find it. So, try to explain to him that I'm not upset with him. I may have tried to tease him a little bit, but it's been in jest. It hasn't been malicious in any way, shape, or form. I gave him shit because I got 200 version 1.3 PCBs sitting up here, but that was $100. Who cares? Big deal. I've pissed away more money than that on beer on a weekend. So, it's not like it was a big deal. And I don't expect any of this to ever be a final version. It's continually changing. I hope, when I told him I was going to be doing the 1.5s, he goes, well, we're working on the one that has the, ejection notice on the, it's going to be different hardware for the SD card. And it's like, who cares? So this thing senses when I stick in or remove the SD card. It's not really wise to do that with a power on device anyways. So, I know he's going to come up with new ideas to add to this thing as we keep moving forward. And, I hope that he sees that I have confidence in him that 1.5 was good, because I did, I did spend quite a bit of money getting these 80% boards done. So, I love Moz. Moz has done an amazing job, and FujiNet wouldn't be FujiNet without him. So
Correct.
He's as important as you are, in my opinion. So
he was correct. And the irony about Moswald is that FujiNet existed in one form or another for 2 years before I got involved. He was building the ESP boards out in the wilderness and just doing things himself. And it was a bizarre chance meeting between the two of us that caused Moswald that caused this whole thing to happen. And it literally just started with a question. One single question can be traced to all of FujiNet. And where I asked him, is the command line hooked up? Yes. Huh. A week later. Yeah.
Well, I was excited about when I first discovered it because I was playing with something else that I had found out there, and it was using, I think it was an ESP8266 or something like that. That was just a real simple Wi-Fi adapter for the computer. Because again, my original dream was to put my bulletin board back online with original hardware, and I figured, well, this is an avenue to do it. And then I discovered the early stages of FujiNet and said, oh man, this thing is going to be way better than this other little thing I've been playing with. And again, I still don't have the bulletin board up. But.
I still remember the moment when we literally, if you could imagine, Moz had built me this little proto board, which was the Rev Zero FujiNet board, and the SIO connector connected with this little flimsy little cable that I had to plug and unplug every time I would take and flash it and bring it back over. And I had unplugged it enough times that the connector fell apart. The connector happened to fall apart at the exact moment that I was ready to test booting Jumpman over the internet for the first time. And so I'm in a complete panic. Talking to Moz. I'm like, dude, can you please flash this and try it? Please, I want to know if it works. And we got it. We booted Jumpman over the internet, and it was a holy shit moment for the both of us, because it was like, that server's 1,000 miles away. And it just booted Jumpman onto it. Holy shit.
I mean, that's why I invested in these things a while back, because that's what the original FujiNets were using. And it's like, dude, this thing is going to be hot.
And the funny thing there, you can blame Jeff Pietmeyer for the fact that we jumped from the 8266 to the ESP32, because we realized very early on that having 80K of RAM was not going to be sufficient to generate a PDF on the device.
Yeah.
Whoops. All right. So anyway,
it definitely went in the right direction. That's for sure. And like I said, I'm excited to see what the next hardware idea he comes up with is. And the idea of a standalone FujiNet that is also my Atari emulator and a FujiNet all in one little tiny package with 0402 components is awesome. I mean, he's going to have to make it a little bit bigger because you're going to have to hook something up to it for the video and inputs. But I think it's cool, and I was excited when Steve Boswell did the version for Mytek's new Atari computer, and
absolutely.
Let's see what else could get developed out there. I wish I had more time to play with it. I can't, I already had transferred all the schematics over to EagleCAD because I can't stand that dip trace piece of shit program. So I had transferred everything over to EagleCAD and was going to start working on it, and then one thing after another, and
life. Yeah, I know. Okay.
Then I started building cartridges, and got sidetracked in that direction.
Well, no, I mean, and I have other projects too. I mean, I have started putting together a video that's going to take me the better part of the next year, maybe 2 years to put together, and that's for something totally not Atari related. I know, sorry, I apologize, but it will be the impact of multitasking on personal computing. And it literally connects together and connects the dots between a Sun 2 120 workstation, an IBM PCAT, a Commodore Amiga 1000, an Atari 520 ST, and basically and a Macintosh, and shows the context as things stood in the winter of 1986, and what the effect of ultimately the underlying sleight of hand that's happening here is I'm trying to make a solid case as to why the Commodore Amiga was such a major inflection point with its operating system and the multitasking, because from my point of view as a professional who was using, my father was using professional hardware, we had a Sun workstation at home, a Sun 2 120 at home, was doing scientific work and engineering work. And so I was used to that here. And when Dad and I saw the Commodore Amiga the first time, the first thing we thought was, it wasn't just, oh shit, this is an amazing game machine. It's, holy shit, you've given every single kid a workstation.
Nice.
So I'm trying to prove that out as best I can.
And it's going to you'll have no problem.
Yeah, there's a lot that's going into that. I'm writing software and building whole environments just to prove out the concept. So yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Something else to look forward
After
to.
all, Amiga is big Atari, right?
Yeah. All right, guys, I'm dropping.
Okay, gentlemen.
Next time, Bat Channel.
Time to go.
Yep.
Have a
We'll
good
aim
one.
for June 12th, and we'll see how many more people we can get brought into this little thing.
Okay.
More.
If you bring Howard, I'm sure everybody will show up. So
Yeah, bring Howard in, that'll help.
Well,
I'll need all 500.
Well, it's been nice. Thanks for all the info and the time. It's looking forward to June 12th.
All right.
Yeah.
You guys.
see you guys
Thank
later.
you, guys.